Nope. Can't go without the sleeves. I thought it was nice, gonna be warm, but no.
Yeah, it's freezing this morning.
Yeah, I figured the heat would be on in here because of that. And I know it's gonna be warm by the midday, so. Nope, that's the wrong password. That's the right password.
So, today, this is the first time I tried it, but I stayed at my girlfriend's house last night for Valentine's Day, and I live in an apartment.
Okay.
She has a house, so
Okay.
I stayed with her, and was just kind of seeing, like, if that's something I could do. Get to work at a reasonable time. What time would I have to wake up? Got here plenty of time to spare. Got to heat up my car before I left.
Nice.
Because when you leave an apartment, you can't just walk all the way to the parking garage, turn it on, let somebody steal your car, go back, get it ready.
Right. Houses are better than apartments.
Much.
Yeah. Where at? Into from time to time is if you're coming in from Walker, which Taylor lives out in Walker,
Yeah.
you have to hop on I-12.
Well, I mean, the first time I got here to shadow him, he was late. He was there like 10
Yeah.
minutes before we went live.
Well, because you'd have some jackleg breakdown on the interstate or whatever.
Yeah. Complete collision at 611.
Okay. I lost every one of those bets. That's not good.
only part that hit. .606 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running on a Tuesday, and it is a busy, busy Tuesday at that. We've got a jam-packed show for you. Guest list-wise, we're doing a bonus Legally Served today. Looking forward to this. Bonus Legally Served. How was your Valentine's Day? I know for Livingston's sweethearts, Cynthia and Dennis Perkins, it was a little bit contentious. Cynthia Perkins took a deal yesterday. Of course, Dennis and Cynthia Perkins accused in a huge sex crime scandal out in Livingston Parish. They have since divorced. And Cynthia took a plea deal yesterday. That means she's going to be testifying against her ex-husband. Ooh. Oof. It's going to get nasty on many, many levels. Attorney Franz Borghardt will be by at 6:35 for that bonus Legally Served. Franz is not the only person we're going to have on the show today. Jake Palansky handles economic research, and he's also a policy analyst with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Their latest dashboard, the Economic Indicator Dashboard, is out, and we are going to talk with Jake about that dashboard. What are we looking at right now at this stage of the pandemic? What are we looking at in Baton Rouge right now when it comes to the capital region's recovery, regrowth, or just growth for that matter? Unemployment rate is the lowest in recorded history, is the region's lowest in recorded history. That's probably the biggest takeaway. But does that mean that job growth is at the largest in recorded history? Got a couple of other tidbits and takeaways. That's 7:15. 7:35, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser is going to be in the house today. Lieutenant Governor Nungesser is going to be taking part in a litter abatement campaign, Keep Louisiana Beautiful. That's launching later on today. And he will stop by at 7:35 to talk about it, see if we can't touch on a few other things as well as Mardi Gras rapidly approaches. In our 8 o'clock hour, Attorney General Jeff Landry is going to be by on the hotline at 8:15. We'll get his thoughts on the Cynthia Perkins deal. Don't know how much inside information he can give us there, how much inside baseball we can get into. But we'll get his thoughts on that deal. And I also want to follow up with the Attorney General on a press conference and a sit-down that he had a couple weeks ago with a lot of local law enforcement leaders. District Attorney Hiller Moore was there. District Attorney Tony Clayton was there. Chief of Police Murphy Paul was there. Numerous sheriffs from surrounding parishes and police chiefs from surrounding municipalities were all there. And they all had a nice little sit-down, little collab session, if you will, collaborating on how to figure out how to best serve when it comes to actually locking some folks up, getting people off the streets. Want to follow up on that. We talked with Chief of Police Murphy Paul about this last week. Want to follow up with Attorney General Jeff Landry about it this week. What can actually be done? How much can they actually do in order to just get bad guys off the streets? How much of this actually falls on the individual law enforcement officers that are out in the street, out in the field? And how much of this falls on the hands of other people? Like where, not necessarily where's the blame, but how can we actually plug the leak so we can stop taking on water? That's at 8:15. Going to round out the guest list at 8:40 with Congressman Troy Carter, D.C. Current. We do it every Tuesday. We do it every Wednesday. Congressman Troy Carter is going to join us at 8:40 today. We're talking about postal reform, healthcare safety, and I don't know if you've heard about his music act yet, but it's worth paying attention to. So that's our guest list. On top of that, coming up in our next segment, we got our sports. After our sports segment, Governor John Bell Edwards held a press conference yesterday, and I got to tell you, he was upbeat, borderline chipper, if you will. The numbers when it comes to the Omicron variant are waning. We are on the back end of this surge, to be sure. A lot of really good news coming out of the governor when it comes to COVID. Still concerned about the high number of cases, although he does put that in perspective. Still concerned about the high number of deaths, although puts that in perspective as well. He deflected a number of questions about vetoing the redistricting maps that are coming through the state capitol right now. His take, I haven't seen him yet. I can't veto an unfinished product, which is fair. Didn't stop the questions from coming in. Also, I believe he took one or two questions on the Ronald Green case. Sidestepped that as well. The purpose of yesterday's press conference was about COVID, so that's what he talked about. We'll have some audio from that coming up in just a little bit. A lot of good news. A lot of good news there. Plus, of course, top stories and trending. We will have This Day in History. We will have the Outside In. It's all coming your way. Next, though, we will talk sports. Super Bowl's over. Football's over. What now? That's coming up in just a little bit. Before we take that break, got to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. They've got two locations. One's on Plank Road up in Zachary. The other is on Perkins, just east of Bluebonnet. Easy phone number to remember, 768-9898. 768-9898. Why do you need to remember the phone number for the Collision Center? Because you kind of need to know where you're going in an accident before you even get in an accident. A lot of things happen very, very quickly when an accident happens. Is everybody okay? Is everybody in the other car okay? Are we blocking or impeding traffic? Are we still in harm's way? Where'd that tow truck come from? I didn't call him. A lot of things happen very, very quickly. And if you're not on your toes, you could end up with your car at a place that you don't want it to be, where you're going to get second-rate service, where you're not going to get a body shop with an iCar Gold Class certification like you would at Complete Collision Center. Certified by more than a dozen major car manufacturers, they know how to find hidden damage. They know how to take care of you. And make no bones about it, you are the customer, not the insurance company. Check them out online, CompleteCollision.com, CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out Complete Collision Center. Quick break, coming back, talking sports next. Yep. Welcome, sir. No, there were none. Even that big-ass email I get every day with the sports history and all that, I mean, it had a bunch of stuff from Cooper Kupp and Sean McVay and Tom Brady saying, no, I'm still retired, but I didn't really care for it. You doing good this morning?
Just living the dream.
Yeah.
Just living the dream.
That looks like a cozy sweater, man. That looks very comfortable.
Shout out to Banana Republic.
Yeah?
Yeah. And shockingly, a size smaller on the sweater than I normally wear.
Hey, now.
I have not been dieting well, so that was kind of a, like, I don't understand what's going on there, but I'll run with it. Shh, just go with it, Franz. No, just go with it. Although I worry that later today it might be a little bit too
Warm? Yeah. Way too warm, yeah.
What's the high today?
74, I think.
Is it? Yeah, 71.
Yeah. Tomorrow we get up to 79.
So it's going to be warm tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, warm. pastor of a Catholic church in Phoenix incorrectly performed thousands of baptisms over 20 years.
I heard about that. They're all invalid. That's garbage.
By the way, you have Plea at 6:46. I want to hit the next segment.
Yeah, we'll do. .616 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So, we've reached the point in the calendar year where football has come to a close. So what now? What now? What basketball is worth paying attention to right now? We've got that window between now and March Madness where everybody acts like they know what the mid-majors are up to. Well, it is taking a quick look at the NBA. The Pelicans are almost worth paying attention to. They made a pretty big deal heading into the trade deadline to pick up C.J. McCollum, and the Pelicans are a half game behind Portland for the 10th spot in the West. I know, that does not sound very appealing. But at 23 and 34 on the season, that also does not sound very appealing. However, if you've been following them lately, they've been playing a little bit better than 500 ball, which, if they can continue on that pace, could see them on the bottom rung of the playoffs. Playoffs? Actual bottom rung of the playoffs. The Pelicans are almost worthwhile. Meanwhile, LSU men basketball put together back-to-back wins, and they will be hosting, they'll be hosting Georgia. What is today, the 15th? They'll be hosting Georgia tomorrow night. Georgia, by the way, is garbage. So this should be, and I emphasize should, this should be a decent week to make it out to the PMAC to go check out some LSU men's basketball. As, let's see, the Tigers right now are 6-6 in conference. That's good for 6th place overall. They trail everybody in the conference that is ahead of LSU right now is ranked. Auburn, number 2 in the country. Kentucky, number 4. Tennessee, 16. Arkansas, 23. Alabama, 25. Then you've got LSU. Georgia is last in conference right now. They are 1-11 in the SEC. They are 6-19 overall. Ugh. Yeah, garbage. And if LSU men's basketball isn't your bag, the very next night, right here on Talk 107.3 FM, LSU women will take to the court, and they are just crushing it on all levels right now. The women's team has been, they're number 11 overall in the country. Only 4 losses on the season, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to play next on February 17th at Mississippi State. Oh, so I guess they won't be taking the court in the PMAC. They'll be taking the court at Mississippi State. 6 p.m. tip-off right here on Talk 107.3 FM. The new rankings came out yesterday. Women ranked number 11 overall in the Associated Press. That was a jump of 3 spots from 14 up to 11. Kim Mulkey has got these girls doing a lot more than anyone expected to this point, which is going to play really, really well when it comes tournament time, as they're primed for a really good seed. Oh, we got a break for Fox Business. Coming back. John Bell Edwards talked to the media yesterday. We'll cover it next.
So this season, she can put a W on this one.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what happens.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
I fully expect this team to go to the Sweet 16 and then just get run into better talent.
Okay.
There's only so much you can
And
get out of
she can
somebody.
look at Baton Rouge and say, look what I did in my first year.
Oh, she's...
A ton of money. A bucket of money. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with mayors.
That's right.
What order do you want?
1, 2, 3, 4.
So, yes, sir. Making it complicated for me, I see. Making it complicated for me. I
Yep.
see.
Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
It's moving the.
I hear you.
Of course, this is going to lock up on me now. There you go. Come on. Come on. Morning, Christy. Welcome in, boo.
How do you know that she's watching?
I don't. I trust.
So that was just a random.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you knew a secret on the YouTube app that I didn't know about.
Nope. Nope.
Some good Valentine's Day wings yesterday at Red Zeppelin. Red Zeppelin.
Really?
Pizza place has good wings. Go figure. Ivar's, great wings. City Slice, pizza place, great wings.
Wonder who has the best. How would one determine who has the best wings? If only there were a way to gather these folks together for a competition of sorts.
Chicken wing festivals are a young man's game. I don't know if I'm still fit to do it. It's a young man's game.
It's really not.
I threw 2 of them.
Do what?
Now, I think I threw 2 of them.
The Wingomania?
Yeah, threw 2 of them.
I
Two
thought
of them at two
there
of
was
them, there was 2 of them at Tin Roof, and there was 2 of the Mac and Cheese festivals as well.
I thought I thought I was DJing the only one that was. I thought that was the initial one. You had done one before that.
I think I had done one.
Oh
before
wow!
that.
All right.
Now, that being
I got
said, the problem is also that Baton Rouge and their mindset towards festivals is they want something on the scale of NOLA. So like Jazz Fest or a huge festival in New Orleans. And the problem is our venues don't support that. And that's also a crazy headache. I like a small, intimate event. About 500, 600 people.
Yeah, so the biggest problem with that is you can't just have a wing fest where you have wings. You have to have a wing fest with like 8 bands.
Well, people wanted music. People wanted a wing eating contest, which, again, you have to get the wings donated to do that, or otherwise you're just setting wings on fire.
Right.
We may do another wing festival at some point. Our mic's off.
Kill the mics for a sec. .624, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We got a bonus Legally Served coming your way in 10 minutes from right now. Maybe 11 if we check the forecast. Before we get to that, though, Governor John Bel Edwards met with the media yesterday, held his COVID press briefing yesterday to declare that COVID is over with. Not really, but man, did he sound chipper. And the numbers back it up. Let's just start with the beginning. When it comes to the Omicron variant, where we were a month ago versus where we are right now are completely different worlds. We are definitely on the downswing of this thing.
While we remain in an Omicron-fueled surge, we are definitely on the downswing, and I stand before you very relieved today. We have made great progress as a state since our Omicron peak, which now we know occurred between about January the 18th and January the 22nd. Today, we are still reporting a lot of cases. 3,039 new cases since Friday. To be sure, that's a lot.
But is it really? 3,039 new cases since Friday. Yes, that does sound like a lot. But the governor did go on to make sure that we knew, comparatively speaking, while it does sound like a lot, look where we were just a couple weeks ago.
But I want to put that number into perspective. Last Monday, when we reported 3 days' worth of cases, we reported more than twice as many as we're reporting today. 2 Mondays ago, it was 3 times as many as we're reporting today. So that'll show you just how quickly we are making progress, and it confirms that we are trending down.
And to go along with that downward trend, when it comes to new cases, that is your first indicator, the positive tests. Lagging indicators behind that would be hospitalizations and then ultimately deaths. 41 new deaths were reported yesterday. As of yesterday, 1,135 COVID patients were in Louisiana hospitals. Now, that number, while it is still, it might feel still high because it's still in the 4 digits, it's worth noting that over the course of, 2.5 weeks, it's dropped by over 1,000. So reduced by roughly half and still on its way towards going down. Now, every 28 days or so, the governor has to renew his emergency orders, his proclamation, whatever phrasing you want to put on it. That is due as of, I believe, tomorrow is when he has to re-up that proclamation, and the governor said yesterday he will do so.
With respect to COVID, I also want to address the public health emergency, which expires on Wednesday. The short answer is I will be renewing it for another 28 days. It'll expire on March the 16th. But as you know, what's contained in the public health emergency proclamation has changed over time, and that changes as our cases rise or fall, hospitalizations rise and fall as vaccinations and other therapeutic interventions become available. And quite frankly, now we also have to take into consideration the percentage of our population who have immunity either from vaccination or natural immunity because they have had COVID or both.
Did he just mention natural immunity? That's the first mention I've heard of that out of anything officially official, of giving credence to what natural immunity can do to help keep us all from getting it again, from recontracting it. By the way, 2.4 million vaccinations in Louisiana since the beginning, completed vaccinations from the beginning till now. One more from the governor talking about what's in the new proclamation. He dives into a little bit of the ins and outs.
I will tell you that the proclamation I will sign tomorrow will maintain the public health emergency. It will not include any mention of masks. However, as I mentioned, LDH will be given additional guidance to K through 12 schools. It's about quarantine, isolation, exposure, those things that the CDC updated in their guidance last week. And that guidance from LDH will not have any mask mandates either.
With a few exceptions. Obviously, public transit, if you're on a bus, if you're flying somewhere, that sort of thing, you still have to wear a mask. Federal, state, municipal buildings, you still have to wear a mask as well. And the governor did reiterate that while he's not putting out a statewide mask mandate, if any local governments wish to issue their own, they are more than free to do so. Now, that being said, we're just a couple weeks from Mardi Gras Day. And he went on to express how, hey, we're free to Mardi Gras it up however we want to. Hitting the parade route, you don't have to worry about restrictions along the way. If you have a Mardi Gras ball, indoor events, obviously you want to be at a higher level of caution than outdoor events, but it is time to get your carnival on. So, we got a quick break coming up for news, traffic, weather. Then we're going to dive into this Cynthia Perkins case. She has reached a plea deal that could very well put her testifying against her ex-husband. We're talking about it with Franz Borghardt next. Hey, what's happening? Say Byron, Eric, Naquilis, Dilwad in the house. What's up, y'all? I want to know more about this conversation, by the way.
Which conversation?
Yeah, well, you know which conversation. The
Well,
one
I
you
can't
had
talk
to-
about the
obviously.
specifics, but I mean, when you're talented, people just know, hey, you're the guy I need to hire. And
Yeah, but
but
don't you first Google who has called me an asshat publicly?
I never called him a asshat publicly. Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
I simply said that the optics.
No, that would be me. I
The
did it.
optics of orchestrating a fabricated issue.
To be clear, I called him an asshat publicly. And YouTube's going to be like, who?
be like, no.
So, yeah.
No.
Look at me using the headphones again.
Hey now. It's better, isn't it?
I'm going to tell you. I want the listeners to hear what I'm about to say. I have asked Brian Haldane to give me a list of things I can work on and improve.
I gave you one thing.
As a radio, no, dude, that's not a list. One thing's not a list. I want 10 things, Franz, you need to work on. You're coach, dude. It's about getting things better.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it's also how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. Use the headphones, Franz. Let's just start with there.
That's the one bite. That's
train
today's
wheels.
bite.
Train wheels, Franz. Train wheels. Oh man, to go to New Orleans on Friday. Very excited.
What's going on in New
I'm
Orleans?
teaching a seminar on Title IX with a Loyola attorney and a Tulane attorney. Then I'm going to come back for Go Rouge. Going to have the folks from Gales on the show.
Yep.
That may be the entire show, by the way.
So,
You ever just have moments where you're like, I don't feel like doing it this week.
I got to figure out what to do Thursday. Thursday, I have to miss my 8 o'clock hour. And
I hate to miss it.
yeah,
You got something going on.
I got a breakfast I got to go to. Let me rephrase that. I've got a breakfast I really want to be at.
Okay. Haggai. Sounds like a hot Haggai hour.
Yeah, it does. You know who I called?
Sorry.
Called Pat Fellows.
That'd be fun.
He's in Auburn, Alabama for some kind of like we're
Running
going to run
thing.
through the woods and climb over mountains.
We're
and
running.
shit.
We're running forever.
Yeah.
That's great, Pat.
Yeah. I want to do something different. Like I always lean on you, Patty G, and Haggai for everything.
Don't
wanna do something
put
different.
me. Don't put me, Franz Borghardt, in the same sentence as Patty G and Haggai. Just don't do that. Pro, amateur. Oh, no, I'm joking.
Wow. All three of y'all host a podcast, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That airs
That's
on this station.
Sad. I just got compared to Haggai and Patty G. I'm done. I'm done. This town deserves a different class of podcaster, and I'm going to give it to him.
Bonus legally served is canceled.
No, this is what he expects from me. This is pretty much
It is.
This narcissistic behavior is pretty
It
much
is.
what he expects.
I've been
Actually,
here
like,
long
hey,
enough- I've been
Nyquil
here
still
long
wants
enough
says
to
I'm free
expect the same,
Thursday.
So here's the
I'm
thing.
down.
So here's the thing. I very much like Patty G, and I very much like Haggai. It is purely teasing and.
If y'all weren't giving each other shit, I wouldn't know what to do.
I like. Actually, Patty G and I don't give each other poop. It's Haggai is the one I like to.
The elder statesman of the group.
Yeah. Yes. Byron recommended that Haggai could take me in as an intern to teach me how to do better radio. Wow. That's what I read. Byron didn't type that, but that's what I read. Thanks, Byron. Thanks.
Galen says natural immunity is part of the slow march to sanity by the Democrats ahead of the midterms.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. I think it's part of the learning process.
Look, if you want,
Because the natural immunity from one variant did not transfer to the other, and no variant has been widespread enough for it to take hold. But the Omicron variant was so widespread so quickly that it's going to be different.
I mean, look, if you Thursday need me to do some heavy lifting for a segment or two, I can come in after carpool, but I can't do the entire hour. I got court at 9.
Yeah.
Just did Haggai.
That'll probably be Haggai. I don't know. I'm going to see if there's like somebody I haven't leaned on before.
How about a rookie?
Actually, I might call Betsy. I had her come in one day in between Christmas and New Year's, and I was told she held it down pretty good. I didn't go back and listen. But it's 2 segments.
I heard it was awesome. I mean, I didn't listen. I mean, it was great. It was the best filler ever. I mean, I didn't listen.
No, that whole week, like I didn't listen to anybody who filled in for that week. Normally, I'm able to go back. That
is
week,
Niquilis' spot.
Is it? Is it? I don't.
You know, you could do a contest. Host an hour.
Host an hour. It's really only 45 minutes though because
Host 45
Jake's
minutes.
got this day in history. So you're only talking about 2 full segments and then a lockout, of which I believe I'm going to have 2 interviews already in the can tomorrow, which I won't play back till Friday. One about college basketball recruiting.
Eric says bring Bill in. Wow.
Why would you do that?
Why would Eric say that, or why would I say that?
No, it's not Wednesday. Yes, we are doing Legally Served. Attorney Franz Borghardt in the house. What's happening, dude?
When Brian Haldane calls and says, I need your help, I need to talk about this hot off the presses news story, I show up. Actually, what happened was I think I was the one who sent this to you.
You beat me by like a minute, though. That
Yeah.
was it. No, seriously, I was texting you anyway.
Big story. Big story.
Yes.
A week ago, we were talking about change of venues. A week ago, we were talking about can this young lady get a fair trial in her parish,
Yes.
and now a plea.
Yes. So Cynthia Perkins is who we're talking about. Out in Livingston Parish, Cynthia Perkins, one of 3 people charged. We might get to the Melanie Curtin thing later on, as they're looking for a new trial there. But Cynthia and Dennis Perkins accused of a number of heinous crimes. So last week, Franz and I were talking about, like he said, she can't get a fair trial in Livingston Parish. Can't get a fair trial in Livingston Parish. Oh, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to go ahead and take a plea deal. In that plea deal, she has agreed to pleading guilty to charges including production of child pornography, second-degree rape, and mingling of harmful substances.
Ew.
I don't think that means what you're making it sound like it means.
Is that the cupcake? I don't know.
No.
Is
Her
that-
remaining
That's the roofing, right?
her remaining 68 charges will be dismissed.
Just get it all out. Just get it all out.
Phrasing. She will be sentenced to 41 years in prison. As part of the deal, Cynthia agreed to be called as a witness in the trial of her husband, Dennis Perkins.
Right.
Cynthia filed for divorce after their arrests in 2019, alleging she was manipulated by her then husband to commit these disturbing crimes.
So, number one, Dennis Perkins will absolutely be filing a motion to change venue.
Yes.
That's coming.
Yes.
Number two, we went from the "he made me do it" defense. I was just a sheep led to the slaughter to I pled guilty and now I'm going to roll on his butt.
Yeah. So
Not that the AG's office needed her to do that. I think that the case is pretty, yeah.
okay. My first go-to is always comparisons, comparables. Like,
Okay.
what have we seen where we can point at another case to draw something from this case? This is the nature of the crimes, the nature of the victims, the scenario of positions of authority and youth, like
So
all
do
of
you
these
remember-
combined.
Do you remember defendant number one who went to trial and lost? And is now
Melanie Curtin.
Yeah, Melanie Curtin's doing life.
Yeah.
Or going to do life. Cynthia Perkins may end up doing less time than the first defendant.
So I want to get into that as well.
That's why sometimes plea bargaining is a good move.
Well, yeah, and rolling over on your ex-husband, making him.
I mean, he's just collateral damage. Look, it's the Titanic, baby. The water's icy. There's this little piece of wood in the water. There's Leo and Kate in the water. Somebody's getting on that
Oh
piece of
no!
wood.
You're gonna jump. You're gonna jump off the boat to be sure, but are you gonna hit a bunch of rungs on your way down?
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Let's start with Cynthia's side.
Okay.
I feel like she got over in this deal, even with getting 41 years in prison. She got over.
So 41 years of prison on sex offense cases generally means flat time or somewhere in the neighborhood of 75%. So, one, she's not going to do – if she does 40 years of flat time, she at least has an out date.
Okay.
And I got to look at the deal to see if that's all jail time or if some of that's suspended or, if it's a split sentence. But let's say she does 75% of 41 years.
Okay.
You do the quick math, right? That's like 38 years change minus – I'm doing quick math here.
75% would be 30 years.
Is it 30 years? Okay, I'm sorry.
Ish, like 32.
Lawyer, not mathematician. So she does 30 years. She's been in jail for a couple of years. That viable out date, or that date is viable for her getting out and walking out of jail one day.
Right.
Okay, it's a no-brainer. You're going to take a life sentence with overwhelming evidence, or are you going to take a deal that maybe gets you out of jail one day? Maybe gets you out of jail when you're in your 50s. And I got to tell you, as someone in their 40s, 50 doesn't look bad. 50 used to look horrible to me. 50 doesn't look bad.
But if you get 30 years when you're in your 40s, you're not getting out until your 70s.
How old is she? I think
she's got to be late 30s, huh?
I don't know. I thought she was in her 20s. Anyways, maybe that's just my sick fantasy brain there. Anyways,
we're not unpacking that.
Just
keep moving.
Keep moving. There's not
Franz.
enough room on the show.
No.
So, is it shocking that she would take a deal? Well, no. Both of them have been saying they wanted to take a deal for quite some time, right? Jared Ambo, the defense attorney for Dennis Perkins, said what? We talked about it. You and I talked about it. He said, my guy's willing to take a deal. But they're not really offering anything.
Well, why would you offer the main accused person a deal on anything?
So you don't.
Right.
Except is there a benefit to him pleading and locking in a conviction that can't be appealed, that solidifies closure, that doesn't require victims to testify? That is the reason why you would indulge a plea deal with him. It is strictly from a what's in the best interest of our victims.
Mm-hmm.
What is in the best interest of the economy of trying this case versus not. If he takes a huge sentence, if they offer, and he takes a huge sentence, which is constructively a life sentence, and the state doesn't have to do any heavy lifting other than to have him plead guilty, well, there's a discussion to be had. That's why sometimes in cases where you see someone who's facing life and they get 60 years, and you're like, what? Why did they let him plead to 60? Well, one, it's a constructive life sentence, and two, it solidifies a deal without having to put victims through the trauma of testifying at trial. That's what that is.
We get caught up in terms like life versus something like 60 years or whatever. Is there really that much of a difference when it all comes down to it?
To the person pleading, yes, because in the back of your mind, what you're doing is you're hoping that either the rules of parole change, which they have, that the legislature does something, that something happens to where you can get less time on that sentence. That's what your hope is, or that you survive long enough to walk out of jail. And by the way, living in prison is not easy. That's tough. It's not all sunshine and cupcakes. It's just not. See what I did there.
We had a minute 10 until break.
I had to bring up the cupcakes.
I know. It was, yeah.
So my point is, smart move for her. Smart move for her and her attorneys.
Okay.
Even though it's a big number, smart move.
So we're going to have to take a break. When we come back from that break, I do want to talk about was this the right offer to make? As a matter of expedience, what does it do to Melanie Curtin's already life sentence?
Doesn't do a thing for her. She made her bed. She got into it. She could have plea bargained. She rolled the Thunderdome wheel. Mm-hmm. She lost. Now she's doing life.
Now, honestly, from the outside looking in, we don't know her actual role in any of this.
Well,
like her level of involvement.
Other than what was presented at trial.
Right.
Other than what was presented at trial.
Right. But as far as the actual ins and outs of the whole thing, I don't know that we have takeaways as to whether
ins and outs?
I did. You said
cupcakes.
Come on. Let's take a break. When we come back, how does this affect Dennis Perkins? And we're going to look at, was this a matter of expedience or a matter of strategy? That's coming up next. Legally Served with attorney Franz Borghardt as part of Mornings with Brian Haldane continues next. I didn't want to open up. We didn't have enough time to get into the expedience of it yet. I cannot find her age anywhere. There is no way.
Maybe she's in her 30s.
I think she's got to be in her 30s.
Even still, let's say she's 32. She gets out in 30 years. 62 years old.
62 years old, right. Wow, advocate.
Thank you, Niquilis.
What?
Radio tip number 1, fraud. Speak up or turn brain down a little bit. My radio volume finger is being overworked. That's not nice. Why can't we all just be nice to each other, man?
I'm loud. It happens. I cannot for the life of me find this woman's age.
If you know how old Cynthia Perkins is, put it in the chat thing. I want to say 30s, early 30s. I mean, really, to me, it becomes a what's the value of sparing the victims from having to testify at trial against her?
There is.
And then, the split is does this increase the likelihood of him taking a deal? I don't know. She's a well-aged 24, Niquilla says. Not really.
So she was a teacher to begin with, and these
So
crimes happened
mid-20s.
over a span. Well, they happened over a span of years. I mean, your early 20s to mid 20s when you become a teacher. I don't know why no news outlet has covered this. To me, that's an important part of it.
Well, it's a part of her deal.
Right.
Christian says she's 34 according to Google. Oh, wait, Byron points out.
36.
She's now in my dating range. Thanks, Byron.
36.
Half your age plus 7. Half your age plus 7. Either way.
Really?
Either way. So I could either go half my age down plus 7 or half my age up plus 7.
Okay.
Troy, I don't think the spousal privilege survives this. Survives the divorce.
Well, no, that's actually a specific question I'm going to bring up. Continuing Legally Served right after Your Money Now.
And by the way, Troy, if she packages it that she is the victim of a crime, then he has no privilege. That she was made to do. If she frames it as I was as much a victim, even though I'm guilty of doing these things, I think it dissolves the privilege to a certain degree. They don't. By the way, do they need this woman to testify against him? Do they really need her to testify against him?
I mean, are you sitting here saying we need to have a conviction based off of assumption? Like, yes, we need her to testify.
So in addressing Nicholas's question, the half your age plus 7 means I can date up to someone in their 70s. Works both ways. Someone who's I'm half their age plus 7, I can date them upwards. That's how that works. Nice try. Checkmate. Anyways, dating world's very
Just
confusing.
ask her out, dude.
By the way, dating world's very confusing. What, Mulkey?
Yes.
I really do want to ask Coach
Just
Mulkey.
ask her out. Just be done with it.
You think I have a shot on that one?
No, but do it anyway.
I could take my shot on that one. It'd have to
Shoot
be
your
after,
shot.
It'd have to be after basketball season. First of all, I got to get the sport right. Have to be after basketball season.
Invite her to a Memphis Redbirds game. Take her for a weekend at the Peabody.
Well, she's going to need a date to the Sweet 16, right? Wait, that's not a dance. That's a basketball tournament. Never mind.
Right. She's going to be at the Sweet 16. Yeah. The Peabody's right
Where
across
would you
the street
take-
from
Where would you take Coach Mulkey on your first date if
Memphis.
you were Franz?
Beale Street.
That's an awkward first date. That's like a get on a plane and fly to Memphis or
And-
drive it.
Yes. And you go right across the street to see her son play baseball. Boom. Dude, it would be so out of the box. Oh crap, we're up. We're doing a bonus legally served today. He's attorney Franz Borghardt. Brian Haldane here with you as part of Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We're talking about Cynthia Perkins' plea deal. By the way, I found out during the break via a little bit of digging. Cynthia Perkins is 36 years old. Dennis Perkins, 45. This, according to the Livingston Parish News.
So walking out of jail when you're 65, 66 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, be closer to 63 if she's been in jail for a minute. Is that a life sentence? No. It's a viable, hopeful life outdate.
Okay.
Again, doesn't see. I mean, yeah, to you and I who are not committing major felonies against human beings, like spending 30 years of jail is tough to wrap our brain around. But if they got you, if the state of Louisiana has you, and you're looking to get out of jail one day and to be free one day, 30 years.
So, I don't know. Starting your life at 66 years old does not sound that pleasant. Like that.
I want you to think, and I tell this to people all the time. I want you to think about all the freedoms you have that you take for granted on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to use the bathroom in privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And never being able to do that again. Having a sleep, you advertise for a mattress company. Being able to get a great mattress to sleep on versus a cot. And then imagine someone saying, you're not going to be able to do that for 30 years, but one day you'll be free again.
So
it's a hard thing. And look, it ain't easy, right? A 30-year stretch ain't easy.
Right. But versus saying 30 years versus never.
Right.
You'll be able to do this again in 30 years versus you're never, ever going to be able to do this
keep in
again.
mind, Dennis Perkins himself, his attorney, his voice box has said, my guy wants to take a deal.
So let's move over to Dennis Perkins now. Why would they even offer him a deal?
Again, judicial economy, the money it saves the taxpayers. 2, what does it spare the victims from having to go through? Now, some of the victims may want to go and testify. They may want that closure. Some of the victims may not want to, but may have to. So you're depending on what the victims want, you may be sparing them some trauma, right? And lastly, from a legal standpoint, a conviction that is based on a plea is much harder to overturn, is much harder to appeal than one at trial. Because you're standing up and saying, I did it, and I want to plead guilty.
Right.
Versus the technical issues, the legal issues that may come with a jury trial. It's like putting a bow on something.
How many of the victims would have to agree?
I don't know.
To a plea deal?
That's a question for the AG's office.
Okay.
You got Jeff
Well, I
Landry
got him on at 8:15. We'll talk to him.
You've got Jeffy on at 8:15. You can talk to him about that.
Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. We'll ask him that question.
But the answer is generally you get a consensus. And the prosecutor is ultimately, the AG is ultimately who makes the decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a good deal is a good deal. If it's a 30-year stretch for her, I don't think anybody will say, that's too light. That's a long sentence for her. It's a long sentence for someone who's never done considerable
It's a
amount of jail.
weird juxtaposition because
And
it is
by
a
the
long
way,
sentence,
it's really
but it's also
40, right? It's not 30. She's going to do 30 years, but it's really like 40. That unless she does flat time. If she does flat time, it's 40 flat years.
All right, let's talk about the fact that they were spouseless.
Okay.
Does that matter here? Because don't we always assume that you can't testify against your spouse?
So things you say against things said to you by your spouse generally is subject to a spousal privilege that either spouse could invoke, right? So Dennis Perkins could say, hey, I told her something in confidence. But things done that are crimes don't necessarily fall within to that exception. So him saying, hey, I need to confess something to you, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Them doing a crime together, she absolutely can testify as to things she saw, she observed, because that's not subject to any spousal privilege. Right? Does that make sense?
Not really.
Right. Like making a cupcake that has bodily fluid in it.
Okay.
That is not subject to any kind of privilege because that's not about you telling me something in confidence, right? The whole idea behind the spousal privilege is same idea with the priest privilege. is I need to be able to tell that one person something to bare my soul that I can't tell anybody else, and it's subject to the sacrosanct privilege of nobody can be that's not privileged.
Right.
That's an observation.
So the biggest difference here when it comes to spousal privilege is whether or not there was an action committed or just talked
I
about.
would think that would be the arguable distinction. Now again, if they haven't litigated this already, Jared Ambo for Dennis will. Dennis Perkins, his attorney, will do that. But look, guys, again, I'm going to go full circle. Did they really need her? Did they really need her? Now, my question is, do they cut a back deal with old girl
Melanie Curtin?
I don't think they can. She went to trial. She was convicted. There is no back deal to be cut with her.
It's weird, though, to see she's getting life
What did I
and
tell
dude's
ya?
wife is getting less than that.
The justice system is a funny thing, right? The more culpable human being cut a deal.
We assume the more culpable human being.
I think we can all agree that Cynthia Perkins probably did more.
Having not said it on the trial, it would have to be an assumption.
Well, remember, Cynthia pled to certain crimes.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, the first defendant, was convicted of what? I mean, so it's a difference in accusations. It's a difference in, and I know that sounds weird, but yeah, how about that? How about that? You take a deal, you end up in a better position than if you roll the dice and get life.
Dennis Perkins' trial, do you foresee any shot of him getting anything short of life?
If it were a number, it would be such a big number that it would look like a life sentence. But he may take that.
Like triple digits?
Yeah, but he may take that because it's a number, not life. Life without parole is life without parole, shy of a gubernatorial pardon.
Well, he was 45, I believe, at the time of the crimes. Let's see.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah. So
if he gets 40 years, he'll walk. He would presumably walk out at 80 something. If he got 50, and look, sometimes the negotiating posture is your guy can plead guilty as charged. Well, I mean, I'm not pleading to a life sentence. I'd rather go to trial.
There's no use in pleading, having a plea at that point. I'll tell you what, I enjoyed this. Let's do it again tomorrow.
Wednesdays are normal time. Yeah.
He's Franz Borghardt. We do Legally Served every Wednesday
See you
at
tomorrow,
this
guys.
exact same time.
See
So
you
we
tomorrow.
will see you tomorrow. Here comes CBS News.
It's hard being me.
Is it though?
No court today.
What?
No court today. Got to go see Dr. G. Got to do some blood work. This king cake season, man. Yeah, it is. I got to tell you, man, the king cake season, it hit me hard. I'm without defense against the first king cake, man.
So,
I'm back at it, Brian.
back at what?
I'm back at the diet, man.
Okay. Are you eating meat yet? Are you? I got no more. I got 3 more pounds to lose. That's it. I got no room to have another competition. And I got a bum wheel. Something is wrong with my knee. All right. What's going on, YouTube? I've been on the research trail. I have the yellow roll wrong. Coach would take you on a date. Running is hard on the body. Yeah, my left knee is just so. I've had a bad left knee since high school, and I can narrow this down to an exact time and place. It was the top of the 5th inning at Bogalusa. Yeah, senior year. Actually, it was the summer after senior year playing Legion ball. Anyway, yeah. Try to stretch a single into I did stretch a single into a double, which is rare for my slow ass. And sliding into second, went to pop-up slide, and the cleat got caught underneath the bag, and the bag didn't come up with it, and just turned the knee just a little bit. Very much like OBJ on Sunday.
Yeah. That's tough, though. Did you actually tear anything, or was it just
Nope.
a tweak?
No, just a tweak. It stayed with me my whole life. And because I'm done, like, I wasn't playing college ball.
Yeah.
So there was no reason to have surgery. There's never been reason to have surgery. I'm not going to have surgery at 45 years old. Sucks. Hated it. How can half your age be higher than your age? It's half their age. Okay, Troy had the same question I did. Does divorce dissolve spousal privilege back to matters during their marriage? That was... So, apparently the spousal privilege wouldn't... So, if spousal privilege was all-encompassing, no woman could ever charge her husband with a crime for, like, domestic abuse, right? Because spousal privilege. I'll knock out Mooyah right here.
Imagine being an Olympian, only 15 years old, and everyone is accusing you of doping. And then you still get to perform. The pressure on you,
Oh, yeah.
it's probably ungodly high. Is Jake Palansky coming in person?
No. Hotline. Cold with jacket off and hot with it on. This sucks.
Does it say Jake Palansky is in P-O-L-A?
Polansky, yes.
Shit. Well, it looked like an A, so I misspelled it on a Facebook post. Great. You have hope at this segment as well.
Okay. I'm going to do Mooyah, top stories, and then Rise LA. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Thanks again to attorney Franz Borghardt for hopping in for a bonus Legally Served. Franz will be back at the exact same time tomorrow for our normal Legally Served. But the Perkins trials, the Perkins story out of Livingston Parish has been one we've been following, and when that headline hit, had to cover it. I mean, absolutely. You know, that just it is such a the number of heinous crimes and allegations, the number of just disturbing stories that stem from it. And I'm sure we'll cover more of it as Dennis Perkins' trial approaches in the very near future. So this hour, we're going to talk with Jake Palansky from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber about the latest economic indicator dashboard. That's coming up in our next segment. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser will be in the House at 7:35. Looking forward to that as well. Talking about Keep Louisiana Beautiful. little litter abatement campaign. Before we get to any of that, though, top stories and trending is going to be coming your way in exactly 60 seconds. Enough time for me to ask what you're doing for lunch today. Could I interest you in a cheeseburger? Might I suggest Mooyah burgers, fries, and shakes? You know how they do it over at Mooyah. They make, first of all, customer service is second to none, right? You know from the moment you walk through the door you're going to be taken care of. But more than that, the ingredients are top-notch. Cutting the vegetables fresh every day, baking the potato buns fresh every day, certified Angus beef. They take time to make sure your burger is to your liking. Whether or not you're buying the Double Diablo, the Best Case Scenario, the A Wonderful, the Hamburger Dog, which is the combination of a hamburger and a hot dog. Or whether you're building your own, which you can do at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. You will find them on Seegan, just north of Industrialplex. You will find them on Bluebonnet at Highland, and you will find yourself unbelievably satisfied with the burger you're going to get at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Side note, and I tell you about this all the time, sweet potato fries with honey, game changer, next level. Seegan, just north of Industrialplex, Bluebonnet at Highland, Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Swing by for lunch today. Time for top stories and trending. Let's roll. Our Lady of the Lake and Louisiana Children's Medical Center are committing $245 million to LSU. The announcement was made yesterday that LSU will be getting over the next 10 years $245 million, and a portion of that money will pursue a cancer center that would have the National Cancer Institute designation. Governor John Bell Edwards says such a healthcare facility is badly needed. He says, there's not obviously an NCI center in our state. There's not one in Mississippi and Arkansas either, so this will allow us to be a regional leader. CEO of LCMC Health, Greg Fearn, says having a cancer center in Louisiana that has that NCI designation would be a big deal for research and care for cancer patients. LSU says the $245 million investment will also revolutionize STEM education at the university and elevate student-athlete health and wellness. LSU President William Tate calls this a game-changing investment. John Belton, a district attorney from up in North Louisiana who will be in charge of prosecuting the state charges in the Ronald Green death case, met with the Legislative Black Caucus yesterday. During their meeting, Belton discussed that he was asked not to pursue the state charges until the feds wrap up their investigation. He also noted that videos that have come to light much later were originally left out of what he was shown 4 months after Green died. Green led state police on a high-speed chase in the Monroe area in May of 2019. When he exited his car, he was alive and apologizing. Body camera videos worn by troopers that night showed he was brutally beaten. Initially, troopers told Green's family that he died in a crash. Belton said he believes the feds could make a decision soon, which would move his investigation forward. Governor John Bell Edwards said yesterday Republican-backed proposals to redraw Louisiana's congressional map without creating an additional majority-minority district are, quote, certainly very problematic. But the governor stopped short of saying he would veto the measures if they make it to his desk. Basically, the governor said, I can't know if I'm going to veto it until I see the finished product. While maps have made it out of the House to the Senate and out of the Senate to the House, there is no one final product to make it to the governor's desk. The governor says that given 1/3 of Louisiana's population is black, Edwards says it's only fair that black voters have the opportunity to choose 2 of the 6 representatives. He says it's simple math. 1/3 of 6 is 2, so you should have 2 representatives, although putting that on a map is a bit of a different story. Keeping it with the governor's press conference from yesterday, the Omicron variant continues to wane in Louisiana, and Governor John Bell Edwards will be signing a new emergency proclamation, I believe, tomorrow. This proclamation will not include anything about mask mandates statewide. The number of COVID patients in the hospital now down to 1,135. The number of new cases reported yesterday, which is the accumulation of cases reported from the entire weekend, 3,039. In the governor's press conference yesterday, he did note that the previous week was double that, and the previous week before that was double that. So, Omicron waning in Louisiana. Baton Rouge police officers arrested a man Monday connected to a murder in early February that may have stemmed from a robbery. According to BRPD, 29-year-old Leroy Molden was arrested for the murder of 27-year-old Alvanta Pointer. Pointer was found shot to death at his Huron Street home on February 4th. Molden was charged with first-degree murder, armed robbery, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and illegal use of a weapon. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. We showed up and showed out on the mobile phones with the sports betting over the weekend, y'all. A super weekend for sportsbook operators in Louisiana, raking in large amounts of money during the first Super Bowl since sports gambling became legal in the state. Quote, talking to all of the platform providers out there, they were taking in very large volumes of bets over the weekend, says Ronnie Johns, chairman of the Louisiana Gaming Control Board. Johns also said he would not be surprised if betting during the Super Bowl surpasses the $67 million wagered during the first 2 months of legalized sports betting in Louisiana, especially now that mobile gambling was introduced in January. Quote, that was done strictly on the property. There was no mobile betting during those months, so you're going to see a much higher number, much higher activity now that mobile has come on board, John says. And he's totally right, oh, by the way. Mobile sports betting, and I've given this take before, mobile sports betting is, you remember the children's book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie? That's what mobile sports betting is for us. I mean, if the Bengals are going to cover the 4.5, then surely Joe Burrow's going to have to throw for more than 229 yards. And if Joe Burrow's going to throw those yards, then surely Jamar Chase is going to catch for more than 82 of them. And if Jamar Chase gets 5.5 catches for 82.5 yards, surely he'll find the touchdown, find an end zone at some point, right? If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. And if he gets a glass of milk, he's going to want a straw. It's the same. All right, we got a break. When we come back, we're talking with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Let's break down the economic indicator dashboard for the Capital Region. That's coming up next on Talk 107.3. I was running long. Nyquilus Dilwad, Mercy alum, says he's been dealing with the same thing since a sixth grade basketball game. Dude! Okay, Mercy alum. Have you been to the new gym yet? Gorgeous! Morning, Nina. The spousal privilege does not apply if the testifying spouse is the victim. However, I don't get dissolving the privilege upon divorce for facts learned during the marriage. Undermines the basis for it. Curious. So, Nyquilus says the whole idea of marriage is dissolved with a divorce, though. So why wouldn't privileges be dissolved as well? Genuinely asking. So if I were to walk down that path, I would say, if I told you something in confidence today, we enter an agreement based off of the circumstances today, not tomorrow. I would guess that would be how it would work. Nope, we are Pelicans now. What? Unacceptable. We're wrapping up coaching fourth grade girls basketball at the Y. Bro. I mean, it is brutal. And I've gotten in trouble 3 times. Apparently, I'm not as PC as I thought. I was really like kid friendly.
Oh no! What'd you say, Brian?
Nothing. There's a boy playing in the league, and I'm told it's a girl, but it's the way they officiate basketball games in YMCA basketball is if you have a lead of 8 points or more, they're going to start making calls against you and for the other team specifically to even out the score.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I understand both sides.
And
of
I'm
that.
not a lot like I'm not over the top in what I say, but I'm not quiet either.
Yeah.
717 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Looking forward to this one for some time because the numbers keep getting better. Jake Palansky with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber joins us. Talk a little bit about the economic indicator dashboard for the Capital Region. Jake, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Brian. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing very well. Glad to have you on here, especially when the news is so good. The press release, key findings from this month's dashboard include the Baton Rouge Metro's 3.2% unemployment rate is the region's lowest in recorded history. Well, that's never a bad thing to read, is it?
No, not at all.
What are some of your takeaways from the latest indicator dashboard?
Sure. So like you just mentioned, I think the big headline is that the Baton Rouge unemployment rate is currently at around 3.2%. And our team found that was the lowest figure going back to at least the 1990s. So that's great news. And I'm going to throw a couple more numbers at you so you can kind of get a picture of what that 3.2% means. Mm-hmm. So there's only about 13,000 unemployed workers throughout the Capital Region right now. Now, compare that 13,000 to right before the pandemic in February of 2020, when there were a little more than 16,000 unemployed workers. So we currently have fewer unemployed workers in the region than we did prior to the pandemic. And that's good news. And the more good news is that there's significant demand for talent as well. So compare that 13,000 unemployed workers that we currently have to the number of job postings that we have throughout the region. There's currently around 28,000 unique job postings for different positions throughout Baton Rouge. So that means that job postings are outnumbering unemployed workers more than 2 to 1. Even if all of those 13,000 unemployed workers magically filled one of those 28,000 jobs today, we would still be short 15,000 workers. So it's a good time to be in Baton Rouge because a lot of people are working and there's still significant demand for more workers and more talent.
The 13,000 unemployed workers, is that 13,000 people filing for unemployment, or, I mean, is it possible that number is bigger just based off of people who aren't even in the game at all?
That is possible. So that 13,000 means that those are 13,000 people who are of working age, who are actively looking for a job and unable to find one, or they might be, taking a little bit of time off, or they're just looking for a job. And what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Well, if they're not seeking unemployment or unemployment benefits, they're not listed as part of the unemployed, so not part of the workforce at all. I guess where I'm going with this is we have the potential to fill more jobs than what it appears.
That's correct. And if you look at our labor force numbers, our labor force currently is about 8,000 people shorter than fewer than prior to the pandemic, and we've seen that number kind of tick up in the past few months. And we're seeing nationally, some people that we thought who gave into the Great Resignation, some people who we thought were staying home. We're seeing more of those people come back into the labor force than we thought they might. So we're hoping to kind of shorten that gap of 8,000 people that I just mentioned.
Where else do we go to shorten that gap? I mean, is there like active recruitment to bring new people to town, or we just look to broaden? I don't know how you would broaden within, but how do we shorten that gap?
Sure. I think this is a more of a long-term solution, but I think the big thing that we can do that will really help shore this up is retain our young talent. And specifically when I say young talent, I mean our college students. We have more than 55,000 college students throughout the Baton Rouge Metro. And to put that into perspective, the city of Baton Rouge's population is about 230,000. So if with 55,000 college students, if we can convince a lot of those students to stay here once they graduate and continue to work in Baton Rouge and build their lives in Baton Rouge, we think that's going to be really key to filling that workforce gap that I mentioned.
How do we go about doing that? I mean, is it being more direct on campus, or is it more work to job partnerships, or what's the approach?
Sure, I think workforce to job partnerships, things like internships, things like partnerships between different universities and different jobs to get students working. I think those are really important. I think another thing that's really important is that we continue to work to address quality of life issues. One thing that we find through the data is that a lot of college students, specifically graduates of STEM majors, so science, technology, engineering, and math, we find that a lot of them from all over the country tend to migrate west after they graduate. And, you know, we have a lot of jobs here available for those students, and we pay pretty well here for those students as well. So it's not necessarily those issues. So we think that what's really drawing a lot of these students away is more quality of life things. We think that a lot of our young college students really look for things like walkable communities. We think a lot of our college students look for affordable, quality, multifamily housing units in these walkable communities. So these are some things that I think long-term will really help make sure we keep these college students in Baton Rouge.
All right, let's talk industry, or like industry specific here. Are the jobs that are available matching up to what's being studied in school?
Sure, yes and no. I think we do have a lot of, like I said, STEM jobs. So, I mean, for this past month, I think nursing, there were more nursing postings for nurses, than any other job. And we produce a lot of nursing talent in Baton Rouge. I think if you combine students from Southern and LSU, nursing is the second most common major. So it's not that we're not producing the talent. So it is partially a skills mismatch because you also see a lot of job openings in things like, things like retail workers and customer service reps. So for these types of jobs, you may see workers who maybe prior to the pandemic, they worked these jobs, but now they are maybe waiting for a better opportunity. Maybe they're taking time to try to upskill themselves so they can find a better job and things like that.
Talking with Jake Palansky from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber about the latest economic indicator dashboard for the Capital Region. So you mentioned the nursing and the STEM jobs. What else is out there that's open and in demand right now?
Sure. So for December, the 3 jobs that were the most in demand were nurses, retail workers, and customer service reps. So we've seen nurses in high demand throughout the entire pandemic. I think this is evidenced by the rise in the travel nurse. We've seen a lot of health institutions have to contract out to travel nurses because they're not able to find, long-term nursing talent to be housed within their facility. So these are some jobs that we've seen a lot of demand for. We've also seen a lot of demand for things like trucking positions and other logistics and warehousing types positions. This past month, we saw a huge gain in professional services jobs. Those are going to be things like accountants and lawyers and management consultants. So it's really, we have a pretty diverse economy, and we're really attracting a lot of jobs in a lot of different spaces currently.
We're talking about the jobs that are currently available. Let's dive in just a little bit on the jobs that are going to be available as well. How does this factor into the equation with the recent announcements from the Chamber about landing new companies coming to town that are already in the hiring process right now? How does this play into the recruitment process and Baton Rouge's workforce?
Sure. So I think one of our our burgeoning sectors is going to be the life sciences sector, as well as transitional energy. And the good things about these sectors, transitional energy in particular, is that a lot of our workforce is already suited for jobs in transitional energy. We have a lot of people who work in petrochem and manufacturing, and jobs in transitional energy really aren't that different from what we currently have here in terms of oil and gas and refining and things like that. So a lot of our workforce is already suited for a lot of these types of jobs that we have coming in. And some other types of jobs that we have coming in, for example, we have a software company coming into Baton Rouge, Rural Sourcing, and they are looking to hire high quality tech talent. So we produce that type of talent at LSU and Southern currently and other educational institutions throughout Baton Rouge. And it's just a matter of making sure that we can convince those graduates to stay here. That's what it's really about.
Rural Sourcing was exactly who I was asking about within that question. So, what are some other takeaways from the latest dashboard?
Sure. I think some other important takeaways. One thing that I found super interesting is workplace travel. So one thing we found that this month, we track how much people are driving to different types of locations, things like parks and grocery stores and workplaces. And one thing that we found interesting that this month is that commuters from Ascension and Livingston parishes are traveling to their places of work at higher rates now than they were prior to the pandemic. And that's interesting because that kind of bucks this kind of national trend that we're seeing with this rise of remote work. If we're seeing more commuters and more workers traveling to work now, that means that they're not working at home at higher rates than they were prior to the pandemic. So this may mean that workers in these parishes may work jobs that aren't conducive to a remote work environment, or they may simply prefer going into the office. But regardless of what the reason is, I think it's an interesting trend that I kind of want to watch as we move into the future.
Yeah, this is going to be one that I think is going to be interesting to follow, just because it's going to work in waves. My take, it's going to work in waves. Like we're going to get burnout at home, burnout at the office. Like you go until you don't want to go anymore, basically.
Absolutely.
But for Baton Rouge as a whole, is it better for our workforce to be working from home, or I mean, the more people working from home, the less we have to deal with traffic. At the same time, though, the more people that are out and about, the more influences you have on a local economy.
Sure, and you kind of hit on it. I think traffic is a significant issue in Baton Rouge, and I think as we start to fix some of these issues that we have with I-10 and the Mississippi Bridge, these are going to be long-term projects that we're going to get done, but it's going to take some time, and there's going to be some growing pains throughout the process. So I think for Baton Rouge in particular, remote work is going to be a significant opportunity that a lot of employers need to make sure they utilize as we start to fix some of our infrastructure and transportation issues, because like you mentioned, that will really help us, kind of not clog the roadways.
Got a couple minutes left with Jake Palansky talking about the latest economic indicator dashboard. I always check in on the hotel motel numbers as occupancy remains high. Are we catching up with rate, though?
Sure. I mean, like you mentioned, our hotels and our leisure industry is doing pretty well overall. For the week ending January 22nd, our occupancy in Baton Rouge was about 8% higher than the national average. And that's great. And that could be due potentially to still pent-up demand. A lot of people were in their homes for a long time towards the beginning of the pandemic. So we still could be seeing some people kind of venturing out more and more and spending their time in hotels and things like that. And it could also be due to our COVID numbers. We're doing relatively well. In COVID, we're by no means out of the weeds yet, but compared to a lot of other southern states and a lot of other places around the country, our rates are all right, and we're open for business. And you don't have to show your vaccine or your vaccine card to go into businesses and places like that. So these factors may be contributing to more people wanting to kind of spend their time in Baton Rouge.
Last one before I get you out of here. Your predictions for the next dashboard. What are you seeing that you think we're going to continue on the same path?
Sure. I'm really interested in our job recovery numbers. We're within 2.1% of getting back to full employment. And by full employment, we mean the number of jobs that we had prior to the pandemic. And if you look at our peer metros, which include cities like Birmingham and Louisville and Greenville, South Carolina, we're kind of right in the middle of this pack in terms of peer metros and their job recovery. So I'm really looking forward to getting a full job recovery, and I don't know if it's going to happen next month or the month after, but I'm hoping it happens soon.
And the cool part is, though, we keep growing the new jobs as well, so it's a constantly moving target.
Absolutely. I mean, we added 1,600 net new jobs in the past month alone, so I'm looking forward to continue adding jobs, like you mentioned.
He is Jake Palansky. We always appreciate the time and the information, sir.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Absolutely. I mean, when the news is that good, too, right? All right. We're talking with Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser next. Keep Louisiana beautiful. Big announcements being made today from the Lieutenant Governor, and it's time to talk litter. Litter Summit is coming up today. Before we get to that, though, need to remind you, Talk 107.3 FM and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help make 2022 as easy on you as possible. How? Potentially picking up your car payment. Yep. Paying for your car for a full year or 6 months worth of free car washes from Benny's Car Wash. Go to talk1073.com. Click on our free car payments for your sweepstakes to register. All right.
What's happening, y'all? How you doing? I'm great. I love your passion, brother. No matter what you talking about, you got passion. I mean, jobs report came out from the economic indicator dashboard. So, I mean, we're all jobs around here. good number. So I went and met with him. Good morning. We got forecast and we're up. No, I don't think so. Thank you.
We got
How you doing this morning?
Doing well, sir.
Jake, Lieutenant Governor Nungesser.
How you doing, Jake? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So Betsy sent over the talking.
Oh,
points
jeez. Did you get on the phone with Betsy?
yesterday.
Oh, God.
This one's you here.
No, I'm fine. Tell her one pad so I can take notes because I didn't bring a pad. Oh,
737 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. All right, let's start talking trash. Literally, the Litter Summit, Louisiana Task Force Litter Summit, Louisiana Litter Task Force Summit. Excuse me, I'm all over the place with this. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser in the house. Good morning, sir. How
Good
are
morning.
you?
How you doing?
Doing very well. Great to have you in studio.
Glad to be here.
Glad we were able to catch up along with this before the big announcement and whatnot. Litter abatement. This is something that when you've got problems in a state like Louisiana, when you have problems like we have, it never seems to reach the top of the charts, but it's always one that's kind of like just under the surface that bothers a lot of people.
Absolutely. And, you know, now, I don't know if it's because of the hurricanes, COVID with more drive-thrus, but litter is worse than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And instead of saying keep Louisiana beautiful, we got to make Louisiana beautiful because it's not right now.
What's coming from the announcement about this task force?
Well, you know, last year we moved Keep Louisiana Beautiful under my office, and I didn't get a lot of traction, a lot of help. But so I got to thank the governor for putting this task force together. Two things. It's made all his department heads bring it to their attention, including state police, the sheriffs, the DAs, the chambers. All those groups are going to be involved in this summit that we will meet monthly. Today's the first meeting kicked off by the governor. And then we'll have sub-meetings in between. I will be traveling the state, having meetings with local elected officials, nonprofits. I'm going to ask every elected official to speak in the schools about it. We're going to try to partner with the DARE program to get them to talk about litter.
Okay.
Because we passed a law 2 years ago that said you had to teach litter in school. We're just not doing a good job at following through on that.
How much of this just boils down to just pure civic pride?
Well, that's another thing. We're going to ask everybody, starting today, embarrass your friends. If they litter, you know, we're hoping to have a site where people can adopt a portion of the highway, city block, or whatever. In Plaquemines Parish, I put garbage cans on an angle on every road leading to Highway 23.
92% of the garbage ended up in or around those cans.
Mm-hmm.
We had to empty them 3 times a week. We want to put those in high-volume areas where you might pull over and throw it out the window, try to make the garbage can before you get on the interstate. That'll have a great impact in giving some people a place to put it before they throw it out the window.
So, yeah, but part of that is the follow-up. Part of that is the picking up. And there's a lot more of us that are Russell Westbrooks and Steph Curry, so there's a lot of us that are missing,
Yeah.
to be sure.
You know, we also, we're going to ask every business to get involved. We want Walmart and all these companies to put the garbage cans back in the parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
They have to empty them.
Yeah.
A lot of strip malls don't have garbage cans outside. You know, when you go to Disneyland, you're never more than 10 steps away from a garbage
It's
can.
amazing, isn't it? And it's perfectly clean because of that.
And so we got to do enforcement. We got to get with law enforcement and see that we have to give more of the fines to the sheriffs and DAs to make them to give them the tools they need and the funding to enforce it. And then we want to work with DOTD and see, can we get signs made that say you littered, volunteers cleaning up the interstate, like caution men working, and get the Rotaries involved in helping to keep some of the interstates closed, because the interstates are really bad. I went from Covington to Slidell the other day and saw a mattress and bags of garbage. It was embarrassing, and that's unacceptable.
It is. It is. How much of this can be done from a crime and punishment standpoint? How much of this can be done by implementing fines or actually enforcing those fines?
Well, we got to enforce them, and we're not doing a good job of that. And we've got to make sure the sheriffs have the tools and the funding to do that, and the DAs and the prosecutors. But 3 years ago, also, we reduced the third offense from $1,000 to $999. Because if you get a fine for littering, you don't pay it, they attach it to your license. You can't go fight it in court. At $1,000 up, you can. And then if people can't afford it, they need to wear a T-shirt and say, I littered Louisiana, get out there and volunteer and pick up trash. Also, when you get a DWI, you're supposed to be out there picking up trash. A lot of the judges don't make them do that. Mm-hmm. So we've got to have a program, and we've got to follow through. Education, enforcement, but you said it, the pride.
Yeah.
If everybody gets on board with this, we can embarrass the people that are not doing it, that are littering, that are not helping us into doing it. I'm going to ask every elected official, every council member, every parish president, to, as often as they can, go volunteer and speak in a school. Let's get the high school key clubs involved, the universities. We had the basketball from Monroe University out there last Saturday in freezing cold weather up in North Louisiana, cleaning up Monroe and West Monroe. Over 100 people showed up to clean up out there. Those young kids, it's their future. They can really make a difference.
When it comes down to it, okay, so if you're driving from Louisiana to anywhere, as soon as you cross the state line into Mississippi, Texas, or Arkansas, it's noticeable.
Absolutely.
What are they doing that we're not?
They're cleaning up the highway. In Florida, they've got these little carts with a metal frame on the front, and I've watched them zip down the highway with tongs picking up trash. They can do that a lot quicker than us with one guy walking down the highway or a DOTD truck stopping and picking up something. Those carts can move around, and so that we're looking. I've talked to several lieutenant governors that have clean states, and I'm trying to implement things that they do right, and I'll be bringing those to the team today. We'll break off in subcommittees to talk about law enforcement, education, local pride, civic groups getting involved, and there's a lot of good ideas out there. But it's going to take everybody pulling in the same direction.
Okay, so that brings up another point, because this is something that you can head up on a statewide level, but this is about local implementation 100%.
Absolutely. We want to put together, and we've got where you can go sign up to clean up your area, but we'd like to make it a little bit easier, one where you can go on and adopt an area. So you can go pull up the map and say, wow, nobody has Jefferson Highway. Mm-hmm. My Rotary Club's going to adopt that highway. And that way we can start picking apart and try to get every area of the state covered. Then we're going to ask the local parish president, mayors, if we provide those garbage cans to sign an agreement that they're going to keep them emptied. And then also putting some more garbage cans out there. I noticed along the riverfront here in Baton Rouge, they got one can, and there's garbage all over. Yep. Let's put a can every 20 feet and put a sign there, please don't litter. I think we're going to have to be in your face We're going to have to embarrass the people that don't, and don't keep it clean. And if your friends litter, call them out about it.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. We're going to run into the question though of can they be embarrassed? Like there's got to be a level of being able to feel the shame in order for that to work.
Right, and also if you get a ticket, you got to pay. You're less likely to throw it out next time. And listen, when you invite family and friends over to your house, you clean up.
Always.
We're competing against every state to try to get back to those record-breaking numbers in tourism we enjoyed before COVID. The legislature and the governor has given us extra money to do that. The Rose Bowl Parade, the Macy's Day Parade, incredible ways to kick off Mardi Gras. But people are going to come, but they're not going to come back if they're don't have a great time. And a clean Louisiana, just like when you clean your house, makes people want to come back. We're the friendliest people in the world. We treat strangers like family, so they leave here with a friend for life. If they leave here and say, wow, you've got to go see that Sportsman's Paradise. It is a beautiful state. It'll help us increase tourism. It's good for business. We've had companies come to Louisiana and say, why would I locate here? You don't even keep your place clean.
Right.
So it's that first impression. It's that warm and fuzzy feeling you get when you see a clean area. We can do this.
Getting back to the surrounding states, you say they pick up the trash. Is it a matter of they pick up more, or do we throw out more as well? Because there's two parts of the equation, right? There's picking up, but there's also not throwing down.
Well, you pull up to a corner, you see a ton of trash. Wow, look at this. Because you see trash, well, one more bag's not going to matter. So as you clean it up, less people will litter.
Okay.
That's been proven. Today, we're going to address in these subcommittees, what is DOTD doing? I know they spend millions. How are they spending that money? Are those people that are getting paid to do it doing their job? Can we use the work release program, and can we help fund that officer that has to watch those people cleaning up the highway? And can we do it on a regular basis? We notice sometimes they do it. A lot of times they do it right before they cut the grass, but that's the only time. We've got to have a plan in place that keeps picking it up, educating, finding the people that litter till we can bring the volume down. I know we can do this. We've got the most passionate people in the world that love this state, and we got to engage all of them to be on board and make this happen.
We had a woman on the show last week. I think it was last week. It might have been the week before. Her name is Jennifer. She's part of Keep Tigertown Beautiful, and she was just overwhelmed the first time she took on a litter pickup, just like a pop-up. Hey, we're going to show up at this. It was Jefferson and Essen. We're just showing up at this location, 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Come on out. She had dozens, if not 100 people out there. The level of support that's kind of under the radar right now, bringing that to the surface, is that going to have to be incentive-driven, or is the incentive built in with the civic pride?
Well, a lot of people have a love and passion for doing it, but I believe taking a picture before you clean up an area and then posting after. We can use TikTok and do some videos, and we're going to have to do it all. We're going to have to be in your face. We're going to have to, like I said, embarrass those people that don't do it, and also recognize those great Louisianans that go beyond the call of duty. And we've got a lot of those out there, and they've been doing it on their own for so long. Now they deserve the support of every elected official, from the governor on down, every organization, and we need to make sure the people that are getting paid to clean up our highways are actually doing it.
Timelines, benchmarks, goals, what are we looking at?
So the governor wants a report back by July 1st, but we're not just going to provide a report. As we implement and come up with solutions, and like we talked about some of them today, we're doing it now. I've got Prison Enterprise building some of those garbage cans as we speak. We're going to look for some people to sponsor them. I'm going to look for the garbage contractors that pick up the garbage to buy some street sweepers and put their name. I'm helping clean up Baton Rouge, and let's give those to the parish, and let's clean up with street sweepers or vacuum equipment. We've got to have the tools in our toolbox that do the best we can, and we can get private industry to help support that. That'll be a great advertising for the company that's got the contract to pick up the garbage to buy a couple of those and put their sign on the back of it.
Mardi Gras' success is judged by the tonnage of garbage picked up after the fact. Do you have a plan to re-gauge Mardi Gras' success if nobody litters?
Well, I tell you, you will get litter for Mardi Gras. The question is, can we clean it up quickly? I rode in the Christmas parade in Natchitoches, record-breaking crowds. I went down for breakfast the next morning. The trash was all over the night before. It was spotless the next morning. What that mayor and that team did up there was incredible overnight.
Yeah.
I know at midnight the street sweepers hit Bourbon Street, but a lot of the areas in New Orleans don't get cleaned up for months or years after. We've got to do a better job.
Yeah. We see Mardi Gras beads and trees in June. We've just grown to accept it, but it doesn't have to be that way. He is Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. I appreciate you hopping on board. I appreciate you coming to the studio today, and this is going to be one that has monumental impact, potentially.
Yes, we're not going to let it go. We're going to keep it in the forefront, and we can do this if we all work together. I've said it before, failure is not an option.
Lieutenant Governor Nungesser, thank you so much for the time.
Always, my friend.
Here's your money now. Right on the post. Nicely done, huh?
So a lady walked up to me in a restaurant and gave me this that she drew. And so what I'm going to try to do is do an animation video for the kids where the animals talk. You got to do some things to get the kids engaged.
Yes.
And so hopefully we can.
Well, and it is. It's because we don't teach it, but that means it's generational. In order to see impact, it's going to take time too.
And when you get your kids out there to volunteer, it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate you coming in. Oh, he's good. I could talk to that man for days. Not hours, days. He is going to run into that problem, though. You try and write somebody a ticket for litter. Why aren't you arresting somebody for a real crime? Okay. All right, I'm way behind. I got to get Rise LA.
And then
Ugh, Mathern's is going to wait. Rise LA's got to go now.
I know it's not what you did, but I'm like, you have Mathern. I thought
No. Yeah, I know.
that's not honestly what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm disgusted with myself for being so far behind.
Not that far, just 2 ads.
Well,
And the second one is supposed to be this segment.
no, so yes, but this is a segment where every time I try to squeeze in a live read, I end up running over.
Yeah, outside of the last 2 minutes.
Yep.
Maybe. I don't know. Some of these segments that we have, like especially the shorter ones, feels like they should be longer. Like especially on like for example the sports segment. Sometimes we have like a minute at worst. Or like I don't know if we try and get an interview in at the last segment of the 6 o'clock hour. It's like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like
It's worth it, though.
oh, 100%.
For the content, it's worth it.
No, for sure. But it's like
In an ideal world, I wouldn't do a live show.
yeah.
I would do interviews until they're done and then edit down.
Yep.
That's 60 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess we're just working within the confines of the media.
Exactly.
What this job's all about. Gotta say, getting here as early as I did, which I anticipated there being like it taking me 25, 30 minutes to get here at worst. Got here in like 15 minutes going the speed limit. Like, I already did everything, including I did all of this day in history. Like,
Nice.
research well before you got here.
Good.
Now I'm like, when I have a segment where I'm doing nothing, that's when I usually do the research. So now I'm just like, nice.
Hey! I cut this yesterday. Dave Attell tickets, y'all. It took me 6 cuts to stop saying Crew of Orion. I used to live on Orion Street in Metairie, Orion Avenue. Everywhere else in the world it's pronounced Orion. But in
So when you were looking at the constellations, were you saying it's Orion's belt?
yeah, no, so weirdly enough, no, as Orion's belt.
Okay.
But never pieced it together that it was the same word. Same word, same spelling.
So it's kind of like Caribbean and Caribbean.
Yeah,
Always Pirates of the Caribbean.
right.
I don't get people that say Pirates of the Caribbean. That just doesn't sound cool.
But it's Yeah.
But it's the Caribbean in every other use of that word.
Unless you're Billy Ocean. Then it's Caribbean Queen.
Okay, I get it.
Now we're sharing the same dream. It's a hell of a Billy Ocean impression. Not really. I can't sing for shit. What's going on? What's good, YouTuberies? So we have a problem with that mic. I've got to get that mic hotter. Or I've got to turn this mic down. I don't know which. I'm just naturally bellicose.
Should I just naturally turn that one up more?
Probably.
Okay.
Well, the problem is if you're turning that one up, it's going to suck in sound.
Yeah, and I hear...
We've got to get it
guest
back
a lot
there
more.
to get a little bit louder. No, you will not see me at the Orion Ball. I got bumped from the guest list. It's not fair. I didn't get bumped from the guest list. I got on the guest list. I looked to get on the guest list too late. 7:55. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. We've got a lot to unpack from that. It is a multifaceted problem. We've talked with numerous people about litter in Baton Rouge. We had Marie Constantine on to talk about this. The problem over there by the Burden Center, where it's just enough plastic to build a separate planet. It's just all built up in backing up our waterways. We talked with Jennifer Richardson from Keep Tiger Town Beautiful, and she has seen uplifting support from the rest of the community who wants to clean up along the way. So, and just good stuff by the Lieutenant Governor, and I appreciate him hopping on board to talk Keep Louisiana Beautiful. Getting you to the outside in exactly 60 seconds, enough time for me to ask if you've gone to risela.biz yet. We were talking with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber earlier about our workforce in Louisiana and how we have more jobs available than we have folks to fill those jobs. Well, when it comes to that workforce, the workforce crisis overall is not gone. There are a number of low to middle income employees who just continue in this cycle of, like we said, the Great Resignation, but they're barely keeping their heads above water, barely staying afloat from not ending up on welfare, even while trying to work. Coming up March 22nd, Fred Keller, founder and chair of Cascade Engineering, he's going to be talking at the Rise LA Business and Industry Luncheon. Fred changed the way his company did business. He got hundreds of employees off of welfare while raising profits. Those things aren't mutually exclusive, and you can learn how to get it done as well. Visit risela.biz, risela.biz. Rise LA, we all rise together. Time to step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish. Time for the outside end. Let's roll. Yo. Starting off in Livingston Parish, Cynthia Perkins accepted a plea deal. Prosecutor said Perkins, former teacher charged in a disturbing child sex crimes case, agreed to a plea deal that included pleading guilty to charges of child pornography, second-degree rape, and mingling of harmful substances. She's going to serve 41 years in prison, or her sentence will be 41 years in prison. As part of the deal, she will testify against her former husband, Dennis Perkins. Keeping it in Livingston, 2 more suspects have been arrested in connection with an armed robbery that left an 87-year-old man severely beaten back on January 17th. Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office said Lloyd Hutchinson was ambushed on his property, robbed at gunpoint, left tied up by the attackers. Yesterday, 43-year-old Samuel Peavy and 35-year-old Pauline McCarthy were arrested on charges of principal to armed robbery. Both suspects are from Denham. They are facing additional drug charges as well. Next stop, East Feliciana Parish. A body shop owner opened his store Monday to find more than $5,000 worth of auto parts, including catalytic converters, radios, tires, and rims, stolen over the weekend. James Harrell, owner of James's Auto Body and Repair Shop on Jackson Street, said he reported the theft to the police after noticing several vehicles with parts missing. Clinton Police Chief Ned Davis says this is the first reported catalytic converter theft within the city limits. Head of St. Helena Parish's police jury was arrested yesterday. Frank Johnson, who has served as the police jury president since 2020, was booked into the parish jail on Monday. The Louisiana Attorney General's office said Johnson was arrested for allegedly soliciting a bribe in exchange for influencing an emergency disaster relief contract. No other details were made available. That's the outside in. Here's CBS News. Did it. Recap the interview. Got the live read in. Hit the outside in. Boom. No, he said a lady walked up to him in a restaurant. I'm sorry, Nicholas Dewan says, did he say a lady walked up to him in a restroom? No, in a restaurant. I hope. Shoot, now I'm thinking back on it and then I don't know. What else we got? What's good? Now I'm going to have the good times theme in my head. Good. I hope he said restaurant. Street sweepers. Dude, we have street sweepers out after every Mardi Gras parade. Why can't, what are they doing the other 320-something days of the year, 330-something days of the year? When did this thing start making noise? That's what I want to know.
The first one I heard was while you were out talking with the lieutenant governor out there.
It's supposed to be muted all the time. You know, you said, can you imagine being 15 years old and being accused of doping? The part of that you didn't address. Can you imagine being 15 years old and doping? Oh. No, I think I have an answer for Thursday. Yeah, my wife texted me. It's a good idea. I'm not going to say it out loud until I know if she's up for it. But yes, it's a very good idea. And I'm a little bit upset with myself for not thinking of it.
Are either interviewees going to be here in person?
I don't think so. No. Attorney General Landry will be on the phone. And Congressman Carter is in D.C. Ooh, snap! Yawns. All right. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Yes. Okay. Okay. No, I got the treasure stuff too, huh? That's weird. Maybe they're taking a week off. I don't know. I'll find out. Oh, no. Oh, it's a bad day in history. Ah! Come on. I don't have a clock. I'm just going to say 8:06, just out of habit. 8:06, Talk 107. There we go. 8:06, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. My computer with the clock froze up on me. WBRP, good morning, everybody. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Thanks again to Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser for popping in studio. Also, thanks to Jake Palansky from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. A lot of insight into what's going on in the Capital Region from an economic standpoint. And I appreciate Attorney Franz Borghardt for a bonus legally served talking about Cynthia Perkins taking a plea deal. Coming up this hour, Attorney General Jeff Landry going to be on the hotline in our next segment. We got a lot of ground to cover. Let's unpack a little bit about that Cynthia Perkins plea deal and look ahead to Dennis Perkins' trial. But I also want to talk about much bigger than this. And I know I don't want to downplay the importance of the Perkins thing, but overall crime in Baton Rouge and the surrounding area, actually statewide when you look at it, overall crime, specifically homicides, have been bad. And what can the Attorney General's office do about it? Well, Jeff Landry put together a team a little more than a week ago, 2 weeks ago, for a nice little sit-down. You had law enforcement. You had the prosecutory angle. You had district attorneys from around the area. You had sheriffs, police chiefs from around the area. Chief Paul was there. We talked with him about it last Tuesday. And Attorney General Jeff Landry was kind of corralling this whole thing from a state level. But from a top-down perspective, local crime is local. So how can you coordinate this sort of thing when, for example, if someone commits a homicide in West Baton Rouge Parish and then comes over to East Baton Rouge Parish, what's the communication like there? To know that if he's pulled over here, we're going to know what he's wanted for over there, or vice versa. Anyway, we'll talk with Attorney General Jeff Landry in our next segment. We've got Congressman Troy Carter coming up at 8:40 as well. Going to get you to this day in history in just a minute, but I do have to ask, have you, not somebody else in your office, have you brought a king cake to the office yet? I mean, carnival season is trucking along. Mardi Gras Day will be here before you know it. We are, less than half a month away. We're 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from today is Mardi Gras Day. If you have not yet brought a king cake to the office, stop sitting by and wait until you get the baby. It's your turn. Swing by Mathern's on 3rd, downtown, or on Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center right across the street from Tiger Stadium. Both locations, you're going to find some fantastic king cakes, baked fresh daily. So we're a traditional king cake house back at Casa de Haldane. The wedding cake king cake, total game changer. And they've got all kinds of praline stuff, Bavarian cream, strawberry, cream cheese, whatever the case might be. They've got you set in Mathern's. And, oh, by the way, parades are rolling in Baton Rouge as of this weekend. Mathern's is your parading headquarters the same way they're your tailgating headquarters. Couple 6-packs of beer, grab some food you can eat on the side of the road, or knock out your total grocery list before heading out. Either way, They've got you set. Downtown on 3rd, Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, right across the street from Tiger Stadium. It is Mathern's Market. Time for this day in history. Let's roll.
Yes, it is time for this day in history. We're kicking things off in 1768. The first mustard manufactured in America advertised
Good stuff.
in Philadelphia.
French's? Was it French's?
I don't know.
Heinz?
Maybe.
Heinz!
Maybe.
All right.
1895. 9 inches of snow falls on New Orleans.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. 1903.
They still had garbage on top of it. Hey-oh!
Ay, Dios mío. 1903. First teddy bear introduced in America, made by Morris and Rose Mictom.
Okay.
1936. Adolf Hitler announces construction of the Volkswagen Beetle,
Yeah.
labeled the people's car.
Yeah, Volkswagen, people's car. That's right. Hey, who knew? Like, Volkswagen would
honestly-
turn out to be as awesome as they are today. The German engineering you'll find in I need to do spots for Volkswagen. We have a Volkswagen Atlas, right?
Ah, okay.
I bought the wife a Volkswagen Atlas, and I'm absolutely in love with this vehicle. It is fantastic. Unpaid endorsement right there. How you like that? No, South Point does a good job.
1943. Wartime propaganda poster, "We Can Do It."
Yeah.
Posted on the walls
Rosie
of
the Riveter?
Westinghouse Electric and manufacturing companies' plants in the Midwest.
Yep.
You've all seen the poster. If you don't know what I'm
It's
talking
Rosie
about.
the Riveter, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the famous one. 1950. Walt Disney's animated film Cinderella premieres in Boston.
Okay.
1964. Beatles Meet the Beatles album goes #1 and stays #1 for 11 weeks.
Yep.
1965. John Lennon passes his driving test.
Okay.
Shout out to him. 1978. Escaped mass murderer Ted Bundy is recaptured in Pensacola, Florida.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
1996. NFL coaching maestro Bill Belichick is fired by Cleveland, finishing his Browns coaching career with a record of 36-44. What a casual.
Right?
So
Yeah, no.
bad.
He's Bill Belichick. He's very run-of-the-mill at the time,
He's
right?
honestly the most average coach.
You want to talk about, like, the reason to have second chances in coaching?
Yeah.
I mean, either that or the epitome of Cleveland being...
Cleveland.
Exactly.
2004, the 53rd NBA All-Star Game in Staples Center, Los Angeles. West
no.
beats the East 136-132. Who was the MVP of that game?
My streak was broken yesterday. I missed one.
Yes, but you're still perfect from last
2004.
week. Yes.
West was the winner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Shaquille O'Neal.
Ding, ding, ding.
Bam.
You are correct. 2009, the 58th NBA All-Star Game in Phoenix, Arizona. The West beats the East 146-119. There were 2 MVPs.
Ooh.
Who were they?
I'm going Shaquille O'Neal again.
Correct. Think of storylines.
LeBron?
Kobe.
Kobe. Yes.
Well after the falling out.
Yeah.
2015, the 64th NBA All-Star Game in Madison Square Garden, New York City. West beats the East 163-158. Who was the MVP of that game? 2015.
Might have been LeBron. You said West won, though?
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook.
Correct. Look at you go. That's all the events I have. You got anything for me?
Nope.
Well, let's get to the birthdays. First things first, Megan Thee Stallion is 27 years old. Representing New Orleans, Birdman.
Stallion, by definition, means male.
Does it?
It's a male horse, is a stallion.
Ah.
Frustrating.
Is it, though?
Yeah.
Okay, well, representing New Orleans, Birdman turns 53. Matt Groening, he turns 68. If you don't
From
know
The
who
Simpsons?
he is, yeah, he created The Simpsons and Futurama.
Yeah.
Pretty established career right there. Christopher McDonald turns 67. Stephen Michael Quezada turns 59. He was Steven in Breaking Bad. And finally, Clint Evans, also known as Maven, he turns 37. Got
All
any
right.
birthdays for me?
Jane Seymour is 71. And former Saints safety Kenny Vaccaro, born on this day in 1991.
Happy birthday to all those mentioned. I have one death to report, and
Me
that
too.
was Vincent Jackson. He passed on this day in 2021.
Nat King Cole. Nat King Cole. Oh, back to this day in history, though. This day in 1994, Tiger fans, is not a day you want to remember. 1994, Kentucky makes one of the greatest comebacks in college basketball history with a 99-95 win over LSU. They trailed by 31 points with 15:30 to go in the game.
31.
It's ridiculous.
That is a breakdown of the highest caliber. Holidays. It's Annoy Squidward Day. Singles Awareness Day. Tourism Day. And finally, World Hippo Day.
World Hippo Day.
Yes.
Good to know.
That is this day in history.
We are due up for a break. Attorney General Jeff Landry joins us next. Hotline. Oh. He wasn't there. He should be calling back. I'll be right back.
Talk 173. Oh, good morning, Jeff. How are you? Wonderful. Well, we are in the middle of our break. We're going to be live in about a minute, 2 minutes from now. We'll get you on, okay? Hello? Sounds good. All right. Peace out.
Oh, snap. That was funny. I'll tell you all about it during the next break. Shout out to old school, some old school Baton Rouge sports right there. I went down the hall to tell Condon about the LSU Kentucky meltdown. So good. (818) Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're a couple minutes late, so let's get to him immediately. Attorney General Jeff Landry joins us. Attorney General Landry, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Brian.
Glad to connect with you. I appreciate you fighting through the phone problem to get to us this morning. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's dive right in. I got to start with the Cynthia Perkins conviction from yesterday. Your office put out a statement. I was just give you the floor to kind of follow up on that statement.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, we this has been a horrific number of cases that we we are working, trials that we've been having. We had a trial earlier, I guess about a month ago, under which we convicted Ms. Curtin, and then Cynthia, who decided to plea. We decided to accept a plea arrangement, which is going to put her away for over 40 years. And I think that it was the right call. We worked with the victims' families. One of the things that's important is that when people make a plea agreement in these types of cases, they waive their right to an appeal. And so this is something that actually spares the victims from reliving the crime again and again every couple of years when these cases come up for appeal. And of course, it brings us to the next trial, which is basically Mr. Perkins. So we can get to that trial certainly quicker. We can get ready to be prepared for that trial. And we're holding people accountable. So we're very, very pleased. Look, our team down at the Department of Justice inside our criminal division are doing an exceptional job in light of the heavy load that we have. And so, again, I think it was a great day for justice and victims.
When it comes to the Dennis Perkins trial, I'm just guessing this is like you're just pushing all your chips to the middle of the table here. You've got the Curtin conviction already. You've got Cynthia's conviction already. I mean, it's just this is your all-in as far as the overall case is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's absolutely what we've been after. I think that, again, these three were all charged. So far, we're 2 for 3. And we look forward to the entire day in court against Mr. Perkins,
which is going to get here sooner than we think, and at the same time, it's going to feel like forever. Attorney General Jeff, go ahead.
I will tell you, Brian. It becomes frustrating, especially for victims and the community out there, when we think about how long ago we broke this particular case, how long ago they were arrested, how long it's taken us to get to this particular point. But, the one thing that we try to keep in mind is the victims. I've always said that behind every crime is a victim. And over the last certainly 5 to 6, maybe a decade or so, we seem to have lost sight that, behind every crime there's an actual victim. And we care a lot about those victims, and we intend to bring justice to those victims when we can.
How much of that plays into it because of the age of the victims here? I think that our job is to prosecute, right? Our job is to take the evidence that we've been able to collect, bring that to bear in front of the jurors, and have them determine guilt or innocence. Again, that is part of our particular job. And then once we get a guilty plea or someone pleads, then we discuss with the court, and the court makes a determination of how long they serve. Yeah. And of course, factors such as the age of the victims comes into play when looking into that. From the outside looking in, it appears so much more evil because we're talking about kids.
Oh, absolutely. But look, Brian, I mean, I've said again and again, we're in this epidemic or pandemic situation when it comes to crime, and when we look at the crimes against children. Look at the press releases that we issue, and we don't issue a press release on all of them, on all of the arrests that we make in connection with internet crimes against children. We got an unbelievable group of folks that work in the Louisiana Department of Justice that are working each and every day to try to protect our children from the horrific crimes that are being perpetrated against them over the internet and physically. And look, this is kind of part and parcel. It really is sickening. It will really get to you. And I don't know any other way out of this, but to basically to prosecute these criminals and hope that the punishment fits the crime.
Yeah, and therein lies the problem, because how do you design a punishment that would fit this level of crime? He is Attorney General Jeff Landry. Got to shift gears, because I've been chomping at the bit for a couple of weeks now to talk to you about what we've got next on the table, and that is crime overall. Locally here in Baton Rouge, in the surrounding area, and when you brought it out really statewide, but let's focus on the capital region. A couple weeks ago, you held a little roundtable discussion a sit down with law enforcement leaders from the policing side as well as the prosecutorial side to come up with solutions for our rampant homicide rate here in Baton Rouge, rampant crime rates throughout the surrounding area. Talk to me a little bit about what went on behind closed doors. What went on within that discussion?
Well, I mean, Brian, one of the things I think it shouldn't shock anyone. Over 6 years ago, when I got elected as the Attorney General, I started to talk about what I felt was going to be a crime wave in this state. You can go back and look at the headlines. Of course, the media, our liberal media, especially out in Baton Rouge, chastised me for that. There was a big move to revamp our criminal justice system, which I think our criminal justice system absolutely needs to be reformed, but it needs to keep victims in mind. And we are exactly where I said we would be if we didn't do some specific things. And so one of the things that we tried to do now that we're at this point is try to bring law enforcement agencies, that is state, local, federal law enforcement agencies, to the table, working with prosecutors to try to work within the confines of the law now to try to get this violence under control. And so the discussion that we had several weeks ago, we were happy to have the U.S. Attorney Ron Goth at the table. That's an important key element because one of the things that we did several years ago when David Joseph was the U.S. Attorney in the Western District was we went up to Monroe, we put together a task force. They do commission some of our prosecutors to basically be able to take federal gun crime charges into federal court. And that makes a difference because when you take the baddest of the bad off the street, you charge them with federal gun crimes, those folks know they're not going to jail right in Baton Rouge. They can be shipped around the country. They're mandatory minimums for those gun crimes and those particular charges. And more importantly, you're going to do 80 to 85% of your sentencing. Okay, think about that. Right now in the state of Louisiana, after the legislature and the governor went through criminal justice reform and said how we had to, have these hug-a-thug type policies, we basically, right now, I can promise you, the best mathematician at LSU cannot calculate the sentencing and amount of time that people are going to serve in our state system. And that, I would submit to y'all, is a foundational problem we're having today.
How does your office come into play on this? Is it just from a coordination standpoint? Is there a pooling of resources?
Well, we do. We look, number one, you got to have a discussion. Number one, you got to see if there's something that you're missing. You got to be out there looking for ways under which you can utilize a broken system that we have now to the best of trying to keep our community safe. And again, it's important that we take the worst of the worst off the street. It's kind of a multidimensional approach that you have to take to this, right? You got to take the worst of the worst, that criminal element, off the street, right?
Right.
Then, of course, you got to work with the community so that those that you take off the street aren't just replaced by additional juveniles who are wanting to be like those particular criminals. We got to quit, having a society out there that glorifies those types of criminals, that social media allows them to be, reach some sort of stardom. Okay, that's another problem that we have. And so, again, this is kind of a multidimensional approach. And what we did a couple of weeks ago was bring everybody together and say, look, there are things that we need to do. Bail issue is another issue that came up. That, the fact that judges are basically just letting these folks out, and it's like a revolving door where you pick a person up, you put him in jail. Next thing you know, he's out on bail, and then he's back to committing another crime again. And it just goes on and on and on. And he may commit 3, 4, 5 different crimes before he ever gets to court.
And those crimes can escalate along the way. I mean, he can be on bail for one thing and do something much, much worse. We saw an incident not too long ago where a guy was let out, and he said before he was going to be let out, he was going to go down to Metairie and kill his girlfriend or wife or whatever the case might be. He was let out anyway, and sure enough, he lived up to his promise, drove down to Metairie and killed his significant other. Are we going to get to a point where, especially when it comes to the bail, when it comes to the bonding out, where we can start calling out judges by name?
I mean, look, I'm there already. I'm going to tell you, I think our judges need to take a real deep dive inside. I mean, look, there are judicial districts around the state that still don't have any jury trials out there. I was speaking to Sheriff Prater up in Shreveport and Caddo. I mean, he is beside himself. The amount of violence that he's having inside of his jail because of holdovers, right? So there, it's not only a bail problem, but it's basically multiple offenders who are now, it's impossible for them to get bail, but the amount of people in jail are stacking up because they haven't been able to get them through the particular system because there's no jury trials, all because of COVID, right?
Right.
But again, if you look at some of the things our folks have done, we've been able to push judicial districts and judges and clerks to be able to go out there and have jury trials. I mean, look, we had one in Livingston not too long ago on the Perkins case.
Right.
But in larger cities, they seem to not to be able to have jury trials, and that's a problem.
It is, and it sets the whole system back. We've had Hiller Moore on to talk about this on numerous occasions. They're behind by more than 200 cases, and that doesn't help things on the street.
Well, we're right. So is somebody going to take the ball and run with it? When are these judges going to come to the realization that, hey, listen, we got to have these trials?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that goes to a whole other conversation that one day we should be having, and that is jury trials. A lot of people get jury subpoenas and they talk about, oh, man, I got work, I got this, I got that. It doesn't fit the exact time. Here's what's very important. Our system of justice is predicated on people inside the community sitting in these trials and being able to judge their peers, right, inside of the community. And that's important as well. So, again, we need to start having these jury trials again. People who complain about the crime should think about going out and serving on juries.
No, absolutely. Could not agree more. One more before I get you out of here, and I appreciate your time this morning, is the next steps when it comes to this meeting of the minds that was had a couple weeks ago. What's next in line for y'all?
Well, we were going to talk back and see about when we could meet again and see if we needed to expand that particular roundtable. I think that, the U.S. Attorney is really trying to put his feet down. He's new on the job. He explained to us that he's got some great folks in his office who are ready to spring into action and to take some of these cases into the federal court system. And so he wanted some time to be able to kind of just, put his hands around everything. That excites me just in of itself, that he believes he has not only because we know that he has the resources, but also the willingness inside of his office that I think could have a major impact in there. So we're going to give him some time to kind of put his feet on the ground. We're going to continue to talk to our local agencies that way on the table, and hopefully we'll have another one soon.
He is Attorney General Jeff Landry. We always appreciate the time, sir. Thanks for hopping on board.
Thank you, Brian. Take care.
Oh, you too. Absolutely. Plus, that U.S. Attorney, he's filling the shoes of the previous guy who was in there, was just phenomenal at his job. So the discussion will continue. We got to take a quick break. We just missed CBS News entirely. I don't care. That was way too important. Here comes your local news, traffic, weather, then Congressman Troy Carter's next. So I went down the hall to tell Condon today was the anniversary of LSU dropping a 31-point lead. And I said, hey, 1994 sports in Baton Rouge, or LSU sports, what's worse? LSU dropping a 31-point second-half lead to Kentucky in the PMAC, or that fall when Jamie Howard just was dismantled by Auburn? Condon's like, oh, I ain't talking about Jamie Howard. It's like, I guess you're not. I totally forgot about that. Oh, yep. Oh, that's so good. So, towards the end of the segment where I said that the new U.S. attorneys fell in the shoes of an absolute giant in the job, turns out the previous U.S. attorney was listening, so He's like, thanks for the shout out. Like, hey, anytime, you shaved head looking weirdo. No, I'm just kidding. He's awesome. The guy who was U.S. Attorney, Brandon Freeman, just quiet badass. Quiet badass. That's the only way to describe him. And a really, really, really good dude. You know, we often have the discussion of should judges be elected or appointed. And I got to tell you, when we have discussions like we just had with Jeff Landry, I kind of like the idea of electing judges. And here's why. There is a case of a guy who was out on bond for a previous crime. And I mentioned this with Jeff. Out on bond for a previous crime, said he was going to murder his girlfriend. He was staying with his mom, I believe, in Baton Rouge, and said, I'm going to drive down to Metairie and murder my girlfriend. And the judge said, nah, you're good to go. And he drove down to Metairie and murdered his girlfriend, and we all wondered why. So the judge who did that, if he were appointed, would be in that post for the rest of his life, or the rest of his career. But when the judge is elected, campaign season can come around and say, everyone Google Charles Ross and look up his story. And you tell me for 1 second that you want the judge that allowed that to happen to remain in his seat. Oh, we're going to get nasty, y'all. The more, like, when it comes to political interviews, I can swing for the fences all day long. I know what the hell I'm doing. When it comes to interviewing judges, I'm still learning. And that's one that I'm picking up on big time. .837, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Thanks again to Attorney General Jeff Landry for hopping on board. And that discussion, calling out judges by name, we're going to get there in short order. Because if we want to see a turning of the corner, we've had Chief Paul on so many times talking about this. He's tired, or his men and women are tired of arresting the same people over and over again. How do we turn that corner? It's a multifaceted approach, and we're going to get there. But not right now, because right now we have to shift our focus to a little segment we like to call D.C. Current. Every Wednesday we talk with Congressman Graves. Every Tuesday we talk with Congressman Carter. Guess what? It's Tuesday. Congressman Carter's on board. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I could not be better on this morning. Just a wonderful day. I hope you're having a wonderful day as well.
Having a fantastic day. Starting to enjoy some beautiful sunshine. Loving it.
You know, yeah, the temperature is going to catch up as the day wears on. Are you up in D.C. right now, or you're back home in the district?
I'm home in the district right now.
Okay.
So I'm enjoying some good Louisiana weather.
Very, very nice. How long are you in town? You going to grab some Mardi Gras while you're here?
Actually, we won't be actually working Mardi Gras. So I'll get a little bit before that Tuesday. Unfortunately, we'll be on the floor working.
All right. Well, such are the sacrifices we make, right?
Have to get done, man. Partying for later.
I understand. All good. We got a lot to talk about this morning, and I wanted to start off with your music act, but I kind of want to hang on to that one for a minute to talk about the Postal Service, the Postal Service Reform Act. You're going to run into a lot of debate about just the Postal Service as a whole, but talk to us about what the Postal Service Reform Act is and what its intents are.
Well, you know, the Postal Service is a tried and true method of delivery, one that was around long before the proprietary organizations have come. And, you know, the Postal Service is the pillar of our American democracy. It's enshrined in the Constitution. It provides the means of moving mail, prescription medicines, tax returns, absentee ballots, all those things that are part of the delivery of services for the American people at a minimal cost, certainly comparative to the proprietary services that have evolved. So, we have a responsibility to maintain this constitutionally protected service, and the men and women that have provided service and the mantra of through rain and sleet and snow, we owe it to those Postal Service workers. We owe it to the institution of the Postal Service to maintain it and make sure that we protect it from insolvency. The pressures that are on mail. I mean, people don't mail anymore, so you don't have the revenues from postage or stamps. People use email. No one sends letters.
Right.
But those basic services are still critically important of moving product and moving, Social Security checks and all these other kind of things that are so critically important. So the Postal Reform Act is a critical bipartisan piece of legislation that we're all very proud of, that goes a long ways into preserving and making sure that that the retirees are not left holding the bag should the postal system become insolvent. So we protected that, and very proud of the bipartisan method in which it's being done.
Okay, so how do you do that while, number one, making sure the Postal Service remains cost-effective, which a lot would argue that it's not right now, and it's becoming more and more obsolete every day. As you said, more and more people are emailing, more and more people use UPS, Amazon, whatever shipping method they have out there. How do you walk that balance of saying, we need to keep this thing afloat, but at the same time, though, not beating a dead horse if and when it comes time to just move on?
Yeah, and I think a part of that is in its name. The Reform Act, the passage of the Postal Service Reform Act, is that it all has to revamp and reform. I mean, like any businesses in 2022, you can't operate on the same formula that you did, 50 years ago. So part of the Reform Act is that the agency has to resharpen its pencil, if you will, on its efficiencies, on making sure that it's sound. The reality of reforming, whether it's a government agency, a business, or even your household checking account, is you've got to make the kind of adjustments to be relevant in 2022. And that's what the Reform Act suggests, is that a part of reforming it financially is also reforming its services and being competitive, even with those for-profit agencies that are out there. So your point is well taken. The Postal Service has to change with the moving tide of 2022 and the future.
Now, that's going to involve a fight with the union, is it not?
Well, no, I think the unions recognize that that this is all inclusive. This is part of the discussion with the unions. That the unions recognize too that the landscape of the world is changing. This by no means is anti-union. In fact, it's very pro-union. This is one of those rare occasions where you can get pro-union and pro-business singing from the same hymnal, making sure that we provide and continue a significant service to the American people, while making sure that we streamline and make efficiencies and use best practices, that you have an agency that is better and better equipped and more prepared for future growth.
Should junk mail cost more?
I don't know. That's a good question. How do you define junk mail?
Oh, are you setting me up to answer about a political flyer or not?
No, I just don't know. I mean, one person's junk is another person's treasure.
No,
my
totally.
point would be it's hard to define what's junk mail.
Yeah.
I mean, I see your point, and it'd be nice to have some distinctions on tiers. I just don't know how do you quantify or qualify rather what's junk mail?
That's a good question. But it is, yes, getting
I
Social
get a lot
Security
of
checks.
stuff. I get a lot of things that I would deem to be junk mail. But some people may say, I wait for this, every day to come. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, a lot of people want to know that like pork butt's 98 cents a pound, but at the same time, though, if I'm not going to the grocery that week, then what is it to me? I guess it's left to the eye of the beholder, I suppose.
Yep, I think you're right.
So, all right. Well, we got more to cover here, not just the Postal Service Reform Act. I got to talk about healthcare worker safety as well. Where are we at with you've introduced a resolution condemning assaults on healthcare personnel. What was the genesis of this?
Well, I guess that it was given birth primarily by the most recent, and there's always a spark that or the straw rather that breaks the camel's back. In this case, this was a situation that happened at one of our local health facilities where there was a nurse that was physically assaulted and I think sustained a broken jaw and some other substantial damages while in the commission of doing their job. And we know that the pressure that healthcare workers are under already with COVID and the incredible strain that's on both physically and emotionally on our healthcare providers and para-health providers, those who are working in the hospitals, rather it's orderlies or cafeteria workers or doctors and nurses and everyone in between, where people sometimes get emotional and take it out on the very people that are there to help them, and that's unacceptable. So what my resolution does is it directs the Department of Justice to further investigate and to review how we can provide more resources, better training, better opportunities for security, better opportunities for health care counseling, because we know that our medical workers are under incredible emotional strain to see people ill, to see people die, to work double shifts, to work under conditions that are even more dangerous given the pandemic. And to add insult to injury, they should not have to worry about their physical safety as a result of someone likewise being under a tremendous amount of stress or strain because of an ill or sick loved one or one that may have passed. It's unacceptable that medical workers, doctors and the like, nurses and the like, should have to go to work in fear for their physical safety. And so what my legislation does is it seeks to curb that threat, to provide resources to prevent it from happening in the future, and provide resources for those individuals who may need some time and attention for their own physical and or mental health.
Was there something about the healthcare industry that you talk about? I believe Quincy Quinn was the name of the accused. This happened in Oxnard, New Orleans, not too long ago. Was there something about the healthcare field that was the impetus behind this attack, or did it just happen that the person worked in healthcare?
I don't know. My suspicion is, and I only know, what I've read. I don't have any inside information on the investigation or any of that, and I suspect that stuff's ongoing. But I would tell you that I think a part of it is the general frustration in our community and the need for more mental health assistance for people. Yeah. And I think that, it's like when you go to a restaurant and you don't like your food, you have no right to take it out on the waiter or waitress. You don't go back to the restaurant. If you go to a hospital and you don't like the outcome of your loved one's diagnosis, it's not the fault of the nurse or the doctor. They're doing the very best they can. Sometimes people have illnesses that even physicians are not able to cure. Doctors and nurses and paraprofessionals in hospitals they don't have magic wands. They're just great citizens who choose to be in a field to provide health care, and they shouldn't be punished when things don't go right with a loved one. By and large, they're successful in saving lives and keeping people free of pain, and they do their very best to send everybody home healthy and happy. Unfortunately, we know that most times that's beyond their control, and the outcomes don't always satisfy the loved one or the person that's visiting. And in this case, it appears that that was the situation where someone was frustrated about the death of a loved one or the illness of a loved one, and took it out on a nurse. I don't have any other inside information on it, but I do know this, that when someone's working in a hospital and they're providing care, they should not be subject to someone's physical aggression because they don't like a diagnosis or a prognosis.
No, 100%. And this is one where, as we see more violence on the streets, we're going to see more interaction in hospitals where it is a high-intensity, highly volatile environment because of the nature of the cases that are coming through the front door to begin with.
Listen, we protect people. We protect people on airplanes. We protect people in courthouses. Certainly, we should protect people in hospitals.
Got Congressman Troy Carter for 2 more minutes. Got to let you talk about the Music Act. You're looking to send a little relief to our entertainment industry. What goes into the Music Act?
So, the Music Act is something I'm very, very proud of. I'm very proud to be co-sponsoring and co-leading this with my Republican colleague, Lloyd Smucker. This is bipartisan legislation that will aid entertainment companies and workers. The backbone of our culture and history in Louisiana is our great music and our venues that provide what people come from all over the world to enjoy. But we know that with COVID, many of these workers were really left on the sidelines because in a gig worker type environment, there weren't a whole bunch of resources to help this very important industry. So what this does is it takes money that's been left over from the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant and redirects that money to help our artisans, our people in the music industry, to give them an opportunity to rebound, to strengthen their financial services so we don't lose this important culture that's so important to Louisiana. In the 2nd Congressional District, we're the home of, so many great entertainment venues. And so many of them, unfortunately, are really struggling to keep staff, struggling to maintain in the entertainment industry that's been so damaged by the fact that we don't have as many tourists coming in, or we've had years where they've essentially been locked out because there hadn't been people coming here and having the ability to have conventions. And unfortunately, because this is a pandemic, they didn't have the ability to jump on a plane and go to Europe,
right,
or go to some other place to perform because the whole world was experiencing this horrible situation all at the same time. What the Music Act does is it gives badly needed and well-deserved relief to an industry that means so much to Louisiana and our world, I dare say, but specifically because the strength of Louisiana in our music and our culture, in our entertainment, is so valuable from a cultural standpoint and economic development standpoint. We have to protect the goose that lays the golden egg, and certainly our entertainers, our musicians, our venues are certainly a huge part of our economy, our culture, our very being. And the Music Act seeks to provide additional resources to keep them going.
Hey, if there's 2 things we know how to do, we know how to throw a party and we know how to rally. This combines those 2. Congressman Troy Carter, we are just straight up out of time for today. I will talk to you next week, sir.
God bless you, my friend. Have a great day.
You too. Absolutely. Quick break. We're super late. Coming back to close it out next. I don't know if he knows exactly what he's introduced with this resolution to protect healthcare workers. It might be redundant. I think there's already a separate crime for attacking a healthcare worker. It might be redundant, but it's just a resolution. It's not binding. It doesn't hold the power of law. But talk about that overall fight. You talk about the interview with Jeff Landry, juxtaposed with this one, right? If you went a little Jeff Foxworthy there. If one of your running buddies is involved in a shooting and you're taking them to the hospital and you get crossways with a nurse or an orderly or whatever, would that be a separate opportunity to pull more people in, arrest more people who are involved in the peripheral of that level of activity? Like, if you run with people who are getting shot, you're probably getting shot or shooting. From a strict legal perspective, it's dangerous ground. But think of it like a retail RICO. I think there's a path to be walked down here, something to explore. I like having Troy Carter on. Look, politically, I'm going to agree with him on average 2.5 out of every 10 topics. Take the under. I gotta say that coming back in. I'm gonna say that coming back in just so I can have it for a promo later. Oh, snap! Shit. Okay. All right. The treasurer's office. What else did I not have? I'm glad Baton Rouge Mattress took the month off. Hey, y'all go buy a mattress. Corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Nyquilus Dilwad, you're a Pelican now. That's your section of the parish. Not far from Just Winging It. Same shopping center as Just Winging It. Go see Mitch. Actually, Mitch's daughter heads up the one down there. Let him know you heard about it here. Get yourself a mattress. Get yourself a hell of a deal. Walk in and say, give me the Haldane deal. Oh, of course. I got to do this live read after doing the recorded spot. That's why I shouldn't procrastinate. This live read was supposed to be an hour ago. Billy Nungesser needs to start buying advertising for Keep Louisiana Beautiful, just the same way John Schroeder buys the LA Cash Claim. The amount of things that our state is doing to better itself, better its citizens, spreading the word is vital. And I'll be damned if I'm not going to try and sell my show for that. Like Byron will talk about on the app, oh, yeah, it's great to be Santa Claus if you're John Schroeder. Yeah, you know what else is great? When your name is on that list at lacashclaim.org. When your name is on the list, do you really care who Santa Claus is? Or do you care that you're getting paid? Getting paid. How about it? Hey, Paul, what's happening? I had a dash cam of a woman throwing a Coke can out of her window on Segan Lane. Huh. Give that to the police, and they're going to do nothing with it. Nothing with it. 857 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. So much to unpack from Congressman Troy Carter. Hey, look, we have Congressman Carter on every single week. And on average, I'm probably going to agree with him politically 2.5 out of every 10 times and take the under. But that's why we have him on, is to have the discussion. And I think he's opened up an even bigger discussion when it comes to this healthcare workers thing, and it's going to bring in law enforcement as well. Not enough time to unpack that. We'll get to it at a later point. Right now, though, I'm going to tell you about the folks over at Go Slim Nutrition. You heard the spot in the last break right there. Go Slim, G-E-A-U-X, slimbr.com is the website. 763-9600 is the phone number. Blue Bonnet at Perkins, right next door to Rouse's, is where you'll find them, IRL. You'll find me there every Friday, right around 10 a.m. for a weigh-in. Was down 1.5 pounds last Friday for my weigh-in. And that's after having a Rocco's po' boy for breakfast. Had Rocco in last Friday. He's like, you want a little Crescent City combo? I'm like, oh, you know it. Still hit the weigh-in, still down for the week. Because it's an overall program. Vicky will sit you down and go over how the diet and the program fits into your lifestyle. It's about making better lifestyle choices. It's not just about the diet food, which you can get diet food anywhere, but you're going to get great diet food there. But it's also about your water intake, your sleep patterns, what you've got on your social calendar, getting your workouts. She sits down and we walk through it every single week. It's like food confession. GEAUX, slimbr.com. All right, we are out of time. Tomorrow, attorney Franz Borghardt Complete stranger around here, right? He'll be back on tomorrow. We had Franz on this morning for a bonus Legally Served. Going to do our regular Legally Served tomorrow. Congressman Garrett Graves joins us for D.C. Current tomorrow, and there's a few surprises still in store, all coming your way. State Representative Jack McFarland among them. Right now, though, let's get you to the Fox News Rundown next. It's about the redundant services that department provides that could be rolled into the Department of Revenue, not the Santa comment. It's fine. But it's, well, okay, not your Santa comment in particular. Let me just rephrase that from the start. It's more about, because Kennedy ran into this too. Kennedy ran into this when he was running for Senate as well. Oh, you got to play Santa Claus. Well, if you're going to, you could say the Department of the Treasury is redundant of the Department of Revenue, but could you also say the Department of Revenue is redundant of the Treasury? Like, which one should actually take precedence here? I'll give you a great example. It is rare, but we do see a shrinking of government from time to time. Who was, I'm trying to remember her name. Who was our last elections commissioner? She won the office and then folded her own office into the Secretary of State's office. Oh, I'm not remembering her name. Oh, I hate when I brain fart. I voted for her. But she ran on the campaign of killing her own office. Anyway, we do see it. It is possible to find those redundancies and fold them in where they need to be. It happens from time to time. Byron says revenue collects the taxes. No brainer. Revenue is more important. The way it's structured right now, yes, but I don't know. Do you shrink this one down? Here's where I'm going with this. In Louisiana, do you want all of our money under the hands of one department? Because the more, I hate redundancy in government, but at the same time, though, it's our money we're talking about here. We kind of need more than one set of eyes on it. Oh. Jennifer says, hey, Brian, Lamar is gifting Keep Tiger Town Beautiful 17 digital signs to announce our upcoming cleanup. That is awesome. Love it. Good stuff. Jennifer, by the way, gave you a shout-out when I had the Lieutenant Governor on in our last hour, in our 7 o'clock hour. We were talking about Keep Louisiana Beautiful and the new initiative that's launching right now. And I was like, you know, you'll find on a street level, when people get involved, they rally. They absolutely rally. Anyway. All right, Byron, let me mull that for a little while as to whether or not I think the Treasury and the Department of Revenue should remain separate. Because when it comes to checks and balances, that's kind of an important one. I mean, shit, elections are important too, right? And yet, I don't know. We'll talk about it another time. Big show lined up for tomorrow, y'all. We will see you then. Later.